I am at Restored Republic via a GCR update. Trump's global purge now active. 7,600 troops on the border. QFS grid sealed. CIA tunnels collapsed. Golden Dome satellites online. NATO AI terminated. Web 3.0. Wednesday, August 26, 2026. As of Friday, August 28, 2026, President Trump assumes command of Planetary Liberation, a global purge operation spanning land, sea, cyberspace, and orbital strata. Border operations were already under continuity command, with 7,600 active troops stationed across Texas and Arizona, now operating under the continuity of government directive. Ground-penetrating scans confirmed the destruction of multi-layered trafficking tunnels stretching into Central America. These were not migrant routes, they were bioweapon corridors. JSOC has taken control of seismic sectors as new no-fly zones are activated above all strategic grid points. The soldiers are not guarding territory, they are purging it. Global financial system transition. The QFS transition was now in motion. Central bank servers have been frozen, 9 IMF black accounts terminated, 14 quantum transactions already cleared through QFS tokens. Private banking systems show debt restructure warnings as fiat liquidity is drained. The world's monetary pulse is being rewritten. The gold-backed ledger is live. Wednesday, August 26, 2026, debt jubilee executed. Zero balances worldwide. Mortgages, credit cards, student loans with zero balances. Illegitimate taxes erased. Nasara Jasara fully activated in 209 nations. QFS displays updating live. The people are free. Trump's constitutional republic stands tall. Only Tier 4B participants will cross the threshold. The rest will wake up to a new system. The quantum financial system is not coming. It is here. Golden Dome strike. On October 18, 2026, Space Command executed the first orbital engagement in history. A stealth satellite known as Dark Bird, built for signal jamming by a China-Russia consortium, was neutralized by a precision frequency burst. The Golden Dome network was now active, enforcing full frequency control across low Earth orbit. Every transmission you read now passes through the Q-Dome filter. Maritime purge. The dark routes exposed. Naval quantum drones have intercepted deep state shipping lanes off Djibouti and Malacca Strait. Vessels connected to Mossad and NATO shell companies were seized. Containers held genomic servers, biopods, and DNA metadata matrices. All evidence is under Space Force custody. Pine Gap recaptured. QNode has secured Pine Gap, Australia. Once the crown jewel of the Five Eyes network, now operates under the Trump Alliance command. Over 140 contractors have lost security clearance. The base now functions as a quantum node hub, linking the QFS Golden Dome and Project Odin. The signal of control has shifted from their hands to ours. NATO AI Prometheus has been terminated. The Soros-funded AI complex in Lviv, Ukraine has been neutralized. Heat maps show underground coolant failure, a sign of system extraction. The NATO AI grid is offline. The QMesh grid online. 14 quantum nodes now connect the US, Australia, Israel, and Switzerland through a swab oceanic fiber grid immune to EMP. This is the backbone of the EBS infrastructure. Tests replicating 1960s nuclear data show instant reboot capacity under 0-point failure. If the world goes dark, QMesh will speak through light. Military purge completed. Under Executive Order 14183, over 11,000 compromised officers were removed after biometric anomalies linked to DARPA neural experiments. The new arm of the military is trained in quantum warfare, electromagnetic immunity, and biofrequency defense. They no longer serve governments. They serve the Republic of Light. Final stage initiated. All fronts were active. Borders secured. Orbit cleansed. AI disabled. Finance restructured. The old world is quietly dying. The new one is humming. The EBS will not be announced. When the frequency switches, you will already be inside the grid. Friday, August 28, 2026 was the point of no return. The empire of shadows is collapsing. The republic was rising. The frequency of freedom was online, and this time they can't turn it off. What we thought we knew but didn't really know, and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. It was rumored that a member of the Iraqi Finance Committee has given the green light for the zeros of the dinar to be removed because the Iraqi market needs a lower denomination, and also to fight money laundering. Majid on X, Wednesday, August 26. Breaking! Fauci in custody. Documents seized. Gitmo transport confirmed. The bioweapon architect just met the alliance.
D. Global currency reset. The most explosive week in financial history is upon us. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy Son, 23 Aug. 2026. Currently, there is no public access to QFS accounts. Any individual or platform claiming they can help you redirect your funds into a QFS account today is engaging in a scam. There have been reports of individuals losing tens of thousands of dollars to these predatory schemes. The transition to the new financial system is a military-grade operation. When it is ready for public integration, it will not come through unsolicited internet offers. American Media Group Sun. 23 Aug. 2026 Thai 4B currency exchanges were being reported across the U.S. These were test exchanges done by private appointment, signed NDAs, terminals flashing revalued rates for seconds before vanishing. Bankers speak in code. Security teams double their shifts. Redemption centers stand by in silence. Something is moving quietly, powerfully, and irreversibly. 23 Aug. 2026 Twos. 25 Aug. 2026 Bruce on Sun. 23 Aug. 2026 The new value on dinar was available in country Iraq. Tier 4B, us, the internet group, should be notified for exchange appointments by the end of this week. We would start appointments the next day. Note, no one knows the exact date for notification of appointments for Tier 4B, us, the internet group, to exchange foreign currencies, but deadlines shown in the above timing indicate it to be very soon. We have been told that Wells Fargo, which is controlled by the Chinese elders, the ones who own the gold behind the global currency reset, will send out emails to currency and bond holders worldwide telling them how to set redemption and exchange appointments. It is advised to redeem your foreign currency at an official redemption center, RC, rather than a bank. You can only redeem ZIM at a RC. The dinar contract rate can only be given at a RC, and banks will offer you lower exchange rates than what you can obtain at a RC. You can only set up your new wallet bank account at a RC. It was my understanding that most banks were under control of the cabal and would soon play a different role in the global financial system. F Project Ascension, the final stage of Tier 4B. First pillar, Quantum Financial System QFS, the old banking grid is dead. Every transaction on Earth now passes through quantum encrypted ledgers monitored by the Alliance. QFS accounts are alive. They read frequency, not numbers. Your intent determines access. Those with pure purpose are cleared. Those with greed are blocked. This is the end of fraud, corruption, and human enslavement through debt. Every dollar, dinar, dong, ZIM, and XRP token is now part of a living conscious system. The second pillar, Tier 4B, the selected redeemers. You were never randomly chosen. You were called. The Tier 4B operatives are the frontline guardians of the new Earth economy. Each holder of historic bonds, currencies, or redemption appointments were part of a classified division. They operate under military directives, protected by silent security forces known as the Omega Teams. Every redemption call, every NDA, every private code is monitored from Quantum Command. Those who complete redemption enter the grid, a new level of existence where wealth becomes energy and responsibility becomes sacred duty.
Global reset in motion. QFS plus XRP plus Nasara structured payouts unleashed. ZIM dollar redemption exposed. Redemption rate equals the amount paid for each. Wednesday, August 26, 2026.
The global financial reset has begun. QFS, NESARA, XRP, and Stellar are activating structured payouts. Redemption rates for ZIM dollar holders are now established policy. They called the ZIM dollar worthless. It now ranks among the most powerful instruments on Earth. Redemption under QFS and NESARA has started, delivering structured payouts, digital gold, and XRP transfer highways. The structured payout program is pivotal for how redemption funds reach humanitarians. The redemption rate is the amount paid for each ZIM dollar, equal to cashing in bonds. Bearers receive face value multiplied by the negotiated rate. This transaction activates digital gold certificates in QFS accounts. The term covers the year's payments continue, 10, 25, 50, 100 or longer as approved at the redemption appointment. Structured payout supplies consistent cash flow for humanitarian projects over the full term. Total funds enter a QFS structured payout account in the holder's name, administered by the Alliance. Payments draw only from this account. Primary principal equals the redemption rate times ZIM dollars redeemed and is not deposited. Secondary principal is the sum placed into the structured payout account at the appointment, equaling the total receivable over the term. 10% of primary principal sets the annual payment for the entire term. The first payment is issued at the appointment into the new QFS account. No waiting period applies. The Alliance confirmed this in 2026. The QFS pays no interest. Funds are available immediately without restrictions. Holders have no direct access to the secondary principal account. With MedBed technologies now available, sovereign humanitarians may request terms beyond 100 years from Alliance agents. Disinformation must yield to Alliance guidance. Under Alliance protection, funds remain secure for a century or more. The quantum financial system rises against the cabal and banksters through quantum computing and artificial intelligence. Value rests on gold, platinum, and oil. Decentralized market forces replace elite control. NESARA provides the legal framework for debt forgiveness and economic justice. XRP serves as a fast, low-cost bridge for cross-border payments, while Stellar banks the unbanked. The age of financial freedom is underway for all sovereigns. The stand-in protocols expose. 2026, the 10-day broadcast cascade has entered its most unprecedented phase. As predicted in yesterday's emergency update, the Prometheus quantum network has officially unlocked the vaults containing the specific disclosures promised to humanity. The timeline is moving with surgical precision. What was announced yesterday as incoming is now live on screens globally. EBS Transmission 3. Clones, space fleets, and the pharma collateral today's broadcast fulfilled every point of yesterday's briefing, delivering cold, cryptographic evidence that leaves zero room for denial. The stand-in confessions. Live role. Diplomatic accords signed. The broadcast concluded with the public release of declassified non-terrestrial interaction treaties signed between 1954 and 2021, officially ending the secrecy period and initiating open integration protocols. Phase 3 operational update. Total system cleanout. While these disclosures dominated global screens, Alliance ground teams executed targeted strikes on underground server farms and scalar towers in Geneva, Frankfurt, and Tokyo. With the legacy, pharmaceutical and military command structures stripped of their leverage, local transition councils are taking control of municipal operations to prevent artificial supply chain disruptions. Incoming broadcasts. What comes next? Unedited courtroom transcripts and video footage from the military tribunals. Covering financial treason and central bank manipulation, release of the Tesla free energy blueprint files, and immediate steps for local power grid recalibration, to zero-cost energy formal activation of the global QFS redemption centers, and instructions for citizen asset recovery packages. Live global address from Alliance Command detailing the official transition to sovereign constitutional governance. The roadmap is playing out step by step. The spell is completely broken. Stand firm, stay united, and watch history unfold in real time. what we think we know as of Thurs. 27 Aug. 2026. Keanu Reeves exposes the Illuminati's 9 forbidden secrets for superhuman powers and success. After a lifetime in Hollywood, Keanu Reeves is breaking the most powerful code of silence in the world. Keanu is exposing the actual techniques used by occult elites to influence people without their knowledge, including methods for manipulating attention, emotions, attraction, perception, and the atmosphere of an entire room. He reveals an ancient technique that is used to destroy someone's life while remaining completely invisible. 2026 Wed. 26 Aug. 2026 Mel Gibson, Fox News. The United States Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor, Stephen Miller. A betrayal like we never seen before. The reason why those Americans in North Carolina, those mothers, those fathers, those precious little children, were left to die begging their government for help that never came is because the Democrats turned FEMA into an illegal alien resettlement agency. Meaning, the Democrats, HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra extorted $22.6 billion from the American taxpayer, buying homes, cars, housing, health care, providing cash assistance, and even helping illegals start businesses. Additionally, the new report reveals that HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra funneled billions of taxpayer dollars to NGOs to facilitate the single largest human trafficking operation in U.S. history, in an attempt to overthrow the constitutional Republic of the United States, while losing track of more than 85,000 migrant children. More than even as reports exposed unvetted and abusive sponsors. That's why the criminal, the human trafficker, the coward, refuses to hold a debate. Dan Bongino on Telegram Wed 26 Aug. 2026 Wed. 26 Aug. 2026. O'Keefe drops the Unalaska bombshell. Murkowski warned SAVE Act could force voters 800 miles to Anchorage. He flew there and officials told him video News. American Media Group Wed. 26 Aug. 2026. Abbey-Gate bombshell. Hegseth's Pentagon finds classified documents stashed and hidden away in safes. Parnell. It became clear why someone tried to hide them. News. American Media Group Wed. 26 Aug. 2026. Explosive report. That's all in 1 week. Glenn Beck unloads Trump's stunning America First scorecard. SCOTUS, ICE, visas.
It's Thursday, the 27th of August, 2026. So much is happening, and so much that you're seeing right now makes no sense. One of the things I want to point out to my audience is the narrative that's being pushed heavily. China bad, Russia bad, China bad, Russia bad. I want to ask you a very simple question. Have you ever been to Russia? Have you ever been to China? I have. And I'll tell you right now that China is not bad. Russia's not bad. But the Americans and the Europeans do not want you to go there because you'll realize how far behind you really are. I've met Americans who've been to China. I've met them in China. I've met them in Russia. They're blown away by how advanced they are. I'll give you one little example. To build 1 mile of road in America will cost you in excess of 50 million and take forever. In China, the same piece of road, the same length, the same amount of access points, 6 million US dollars, and finished in 10% of the time. This is what they don't want you to know. They are so far ahead. The quality of the roads is better than what you have in America and in Europe. The quality of life they have. You go on the metro, the underground, the train system in China and in Russia. They are so far ahead. And yet you're led to believe that they're not. When it comes to war, they are so far ahead. because we've still got battleships and missiles. They've got micro drones and direct energy weapons that we're still catching up on. They're 20 years ahead of us. But at the moment, Donald Trump, whether you love him or hate him, makes no difference, is collapsing the US corporation. But he's going to make America great again. But the US corporation is what's corrupt Washington, D.C., the City of London, the EU, NATO, the UN, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization. They are all being collapsed by Donald Trump. But he's had to do it from the inside out. Oh, and there's a small matter of collapsing the corrupt state of Israel, where all of those people who live there, who claim the rights to the land, had to learn Hebrew because they originally spoke Polish and Russian, as they were from Ukraine and Hungary and Poland. They had to relearn a language. We've been lied to by these people. And very interestingly, as I did a show yesterday, those people living in Israel claiming to be Israelites, claiming their right to the land, not one of them has the DNA to exist there. And yet the Palestinians do. But they don't want you to know that. So they had to learn that language. They stole the land, and we know that now. And the real Semites are the Palestinians. And we're certainly not anti them. So their whole narrative has fallen apart. And it's for you to wake up and do your research. And when you do, you'll find out the truth. The truth always comes out in the end. They don't want it to come out. But don't panic as to what's going on in the world right now, because it's leveling the playing field. People go, well, Trump's losing this battle. Of course he is. He's dismantling the deep state, the United States corporation. That's what he's losing. But he will make America great again. It has to be dismantled first. My next story is a sad one for those people in Tibet and Nepal. Huge flooding there that has killed hundreds, if not thousands, of people. If you look at the border crossing between Nepal and Tibet, completely wiped out by a wall of water. We've seen that sort of scene in a movie. Now you're seeing it in real life. We're living in the end times, the dismantling of the old system, the complete collapse of the old system. I would urge you not to live in fear. This is the time that if you want to know the truth and where to find the truth, I turned off my television 7 years ago. I don't ask Google anything. I don't ask Siri. I don't ask Alexa. I've got direct access to the truth 24/7. It's called God. You need to connect to God to find out what's going on. That's the only place that you'll find the truth. The rest of it is narrative. And in Charlie's language, bullshit. Plenty of it. Tons of it. And it's coming down the track. Different channels that are put out there by the deep state and the cabal. Trust in Trump. Trust in the truth. Trust in this. All complete fake accounts pushing a narrative. All lies. Social media for the truth. Look to God for the truth. That's where you'll find it. And when you find the truth, the first thing you find when you find the truth is peace. And I'm living a very peaceful life now because I found the truth. I hope you do too. That was the news. on Thursday, the 27th of August.
The Rothschild family are descended from Eastern European occult Satanist Khazars. The Rothschild family is the Khazarian mafia and runs modern Israel, Federal Reserve, ECB, BIS, and Epstein Island. 2026, the Khazars were a semi-nomadic Turkic people that in the late 5th century had established a major commercial empire covering the southeastern section of modern European Russia, southern Ukraine, Crimea, Jordan, and Kazakhstan. They were nicknamed the Name Stealers by neighboring countries that grew tired of their criminal behavior, as well as for their perpetuity for kidnappings, thievery, and road banditry, and are often known as the Khazarian Mafia today. Khazaria was formed as a kingdom ruled by an evil king named Bulan, whose court included people trained in the occult mysteries and black magic sciences of Babylon, Greece, and Rome. In 740 AD, Kievan Rus, Russia and other neighboring countries such as Persia, Iran, gave the Khazarian king Bulan an ultimatum that they must adopt one of the 3 Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. They adopted Judaism, but continued to practice occult black magic rituals, favors from Baal and Moloch, among other dark deities. American woman says she has female friends in Muslim countries and Americans don't understand how badly women are treated. Wed 26 Aug. 2026. You're a woman and you have your hair down like I do right now. Guess what? If it's not covered, jail. Oh, you want to walk outside without a man. Jail. Oh, you want to speak your voice and use your opinion. Jail. Actually, sometimes they might unalive you for that. Oh, what was that? You want to wear any kind of clothes that you want to wear. You want to drive a car. Imprisonment, like, there's a number of things I could go on about that people just don't understand here. So when people here are saying things like, you don't understand, like, we should allow them here because they came from a terrible country. Yeah, they did come from a terrible country. However, you need to understand that they are not assimilating. Assimilating means that you go to a country or somewhere else, and you actually become a part of that culture. So if they're coming from an Islamic country, that means you don't wear full hijab. That means you work a full-time job. That means you actually contribute to society. But none of them do that. If I go to their shithole countries that they're coming here from, I can't play Christian music. I can't go talk to somebody about God. You know why? Because I'll be put to death. But they can go to any other first world country or any country of their choice and force the culture to change to be what their religion is. That's my problem. She explains how places like Dearborn, Michigan and Minneapolis are just nothing hit Muslims in full burqas, and that's not assimilating. She's right. Islamic attire should be banned. Islam itself should not be recognized as a religion because it's not. Islam is a society, it's a government.
This has been going in circles. However, it is clearly circling around a drain hole, and the possibility finally of a collapse of the Zionist regime in the United States is becoming very real. Let us start with the situation in Ukraine. There's now the Ukrainian anti-corruption office is now investigating 49 different cases of corruption. People all around Zelensky, who, as we know, is just an actor, are being arrested, and there's now serious talk about a forced election in the fall to replace Zelensky and that whole group. The point I'm making here is that the money laundering through the Ukraine that was being used to bribe the U.S. politicians is being closed, and that whole crime syndicate pretending to be a government is being shut down. So that's one thing we're seeing this fall. Of course, we also need something to happen to Russia, because my own Russian FSB sources agree with me that Russia has been playing its part in the genocide of Ukrainian men. This is not a war, it's a genocide. The Russians could march all the way to the Spanish border if they want. They don't. Every day for the past year they announce they liberated 2 communities, but the map doesn't change. So clearly Chabad, that world-ending cult is still very powerful in Russia, and Russia's playing its part in this whole scam. But nonetheless, the white hats in the West are going to clean up Ukraine, remove the crime syndicate, and replace it with a real government. And I still understand that behind the scenes, a peace agreement has been reached with Russia, and that the new border between the Western Europe and Russia will be the Dnieper River, as agreed to before, and that Odessa will revert to Russian hands. Anyway, so between the Western Europe and Russia will be the Dnieper River, as agreed to before, and that Odessa will revert to Russian hands. Anyway, so the point I wish to make is that this autumn we can't expect big changes in Ukraine, which is one of the pillars of the final Zionist control. Now let's look at the other big pillar, Israel. Israel's Mossad and the military are in revolt. There's an undeclared civil war there. A lot of IDF troops are refusing to deploy, and Israel has run out of weapons. The Iranians are saying that they have shot down over 200 U.S. aircraft. Now, the other thing that's happening, of course, is Saudi Arabia is under attack from Yemen. And the mercenary troops working for Saudi Arabia are not going to fight like the Yemenis because they don't believe in their cause. And mercenaries will have a tendency to run away as soon as they face a serious attack. So, and Saudi exports have been shut off or strangled. So the International Energy Association is saying there's a 1.8 billion barrel per day shortage. And this brings us to when is the United States going to collapse? And, you know, they've been able to kick the can down the road so many times. We don't want to, you know, give a specific date, but there are really big signs now. I think the biggest one is the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve. It's fallen below 300 million barrels, and what's happening now is that in order to extract more oil from these reserves, they have to pump water in to make the oil float to the top. The problem is the oil is being stored in salt caverns, and the water is causing the salt to dilute and the walls to collapse. So the experts are saying that, you know, it's not going to be much longer before they won't be able to get oil from there, and they're not getting oil from the Middle East. So, you know, there could be a big crisis in the autumn once that reserve runs out, and I'm not the only person saying that. So that's another thing to watch for. Finally, the U.S. regime is more isolated than it has ever been before. No Western ally participated in their war against Iran. That's a big sign. And the U.S. military is on the brink of revolt. It's gotten to the point where the Pete Hegseth, the reality show actor pretending to be Minister of War, working for the Khazarian Mafia, is trying to censor the U.S. military newspaper Stars and Stripes, because Stars and Stripes are reporting that U.S. sailors aren't getting food. You know, you can shut up the news about people not getting food, but that's not going to stop people from starving. So we're hoping the U.S. military will do something about it. The White Hats will finally make a move. However, I have to admit, I have become very disillusioned with my own White Hat contacts because they haven't been doing anything. They just sit there and they don't take action. We don't see the fake Trump being arrested, and it's obvious now he should be arrested because, first of all, he's a fraud. He's not actually Donald Trump. He's an actor. Okay, so that reason alone is why the U.S. Military police should be going into Mar-a-Lago and ever rounding these people up. But the other point is the corruption is so in your face with these selling access to Truth Social and selling fraudulent, defrauding investors out of $3.8 billion through fraudulent cryptocurrency. But, you know, everybody is selling U.S. bonds, and U.S. allies are abandoning the United States. The biggest unreported news on that front is South Korea is basically divorcing the U.S. military. The stories we're seeing in the censored Western press about how military exercises are being scaled down is just not the case. What's happened is the United States has withdrawn all its Patriot missiles and defenses from South Korea, so they wouldn't be able to defend against the North Korean attack. There are no U.S. aircraft carriers left in Asia, and the North Koreans or the South Koreans are refusing to pay the $350 billion that the Trump regime tried to extort from them. So that's why we see all this talk suddenly about Trump saying, "Oh, I want to have a summit with Kim Jong-un of North Korea." Well, that's not going to happen. First of all, they killed Kim Jong-un, and it's his sister's in charge, and she's not going to talk. I know that from my own North Korean contacts. So that's not going to happen. And the other thing, of course, is if you look at the U.S. Treasury market, the U.S. 30-year bond yields have risen above the level seen in 2007, immediately before the Lehman crisis. And no matter what U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent does, he doesn't have money. He tried to get the Japanese to stop selling their U.S. treasuries by offering them to print them dollars, but that's not fooling anybody. He betrayed the Europeans by taking some of their money without permission. But none of it's helping, and it's not going to help. The U.S. now has spent $1.17 trillion on interest payments since October, which is more than the $800 billion spent on the military. Never mind programs for needy people or rebuilding U.S. infrastructure. So again, we're watching a regime collapse, and the rest of the world is standing by, ready to help. The first thing people need to understand is that, you know, the whole Zionist project is collapsing, and people are aware of it. Listen to this British interviewer confront a Zionist Jew about anti-Semitism to show where that whole canard is going. The Jews are their victims along with everybody else, so let's make that clear. But they're not fooling anybody. They can't shut down debate. And now we've had a new book come out about Robert Maxwell, the person who created Jeff Epstein. And here's a couple excerpts from the an interview of the author of that book I think you should watch. It's the exposure of the very systematic blackmail and bribery operation that has compromised Western governments. And because it's being exposed and because they're running out of money, this has got to collapse at some time. I mean, they're trying to, stay in power, but all around the edges they're being hit. So, for example, Anthony Fauci was granted immunity, but he's still being charged with contempt of Congress. Some of his associates have now been pleading guilty. Criminal trials against these people are proceeding in Germany and Holland, in Japan and elsewhere. So again, the writing is on the wall. And I've been in touch with the Iranians, and they make it very clear that they are not going to negotiate with the regime of Donald Trump and Jared Kushner and those people, and that they are now engaged in full-scale war, and they understand that the end game is the replacement of Israel, which is a racist, satanic state, with Judea, which would be a Jewish and multinational, multicultural state, is their goal. And they are, preparing major military offenses. These are underway and they will continue. And they're also cleaning up the last of the Mossad network in Iran. Take a look at this clip they sent me. They said that the top Mossad agent in Iran has been arrested, and they found a huge stash of US dollar bills that he was using. Now, we know from previous reporting that this is one of their key methods. They show up in a country with busloads full of US dollar, $100 bill cash, and they hire riffraff to stage riots. All that is blowing up in their faces. So again, the signs are good that we can make something happen in the autumn. But again, I think we need to wait for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to really run out. We need to wait for things to get tougher before these people will step aside, because they are fighting for their lives. And again, also in England, we need to see how much longer this widely despised regime, now it's got the blackmailed pedophile Keir Starmer has been replaced with another cutout of Andy Burnham, who's telling people that they need to, small rural villages in England, that they need to accommodate thousands of military-age third world males for reasons unknown. And people are revolting against that. They're angry and they're fighting. And another thing people need to realize is that Canada and Spain are now the two major Western countries that have already removed the cabal. Spain, they're under attack from the crypto Jew king of Morocco, but this is just a Mossad operation that's going nowhere. Spain is leading the world, or the Western world, in fighting against the genocide in Gaza and Lebanon, and preventing the U.S. from using their bases to attack Lebanon and other countries. So that's why Spain's under attack. Canada is under economic attack, but the fact is the United States has already extorted as much as they could from Canada, and Canada is moving ahead. Prime Minister Mark Carney has just announced $70 billion to increase energy production. This is mostly hydroelectric power, but these are the sort of mega projects the Canadian government used to carry out, like the Trans-Canada Highway or the canals linking the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean and other huge projects. They're now doing the same thing, and this is not being financed with debt or with taxes. It's government money. So they're proceeding along the way. And Canada stands by to help the American people as soon as they remove the criminals who seize power. And as soon as that happens, this is what's going to happen. All U.S. debt, public and private, will be canceled. And a massive campaign to rebuild U.S. industry, to rebuild U.S. infrastructure, to rebuild U.S. education will start, and the United States will become a normal country, not a warmongering slave of a messianic, satanic project. And that's what we're hoping will happen soon. And the other thing we've got our eyes on, of course, is this AI bubble. Now it looks like, in a desperate attempt to stay in power, the Khazarian mafia has been, spending trillions of dollars they do not have on giant data centers. But all the experts are saying that there's no demand for all this investment. It's not going to pay for itself, and it's circular. It's NVIDIA selling chips and then using those chips to back up. Anyway, it's a giant circle jerk. The money is coming from nowhere, but they are parasitizing from the rest of the U.S. economy to build these centers that have no economic basis. And AI is turning out to be just a giant encyclopedia. At the end of the day, it's dependent on low-paid staff, or sometimes high-paid staffers at tech companies, to decide what is true and what is not true. But they cannot decide what is true or not true. That is decided by reality. And the reality is, we are watching the end game. I'll go back in September. I'll start making every call I can to try to get some action to finally finish this off. But as we keep repeating, there's plenty of funding available to help the American people as soon as they remove the criminals who've seized power there. And we'll see a similar collapse in Germany and France and England when this happens. One key battle might be the removal of the fake King Charles and the replacement with King William. That's one place that might trigger the change. But right now, I think we're going to have to wait for more collapse. There's going to be more hardship. But keep your eye on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, because that could be the key. But even if the whole Khazarian Mafia structure does not collapse this autumn, and the chances are bigger than I've ever seen them in since the Lehman crisis. It cannot last far into 2027. The numbers aren't there. The real economy is not there. They don't have the oil. Their military they've run out of weapons. Now they're sending like Bradley fighting vehicles and new aircraft missing vital parts because they don't have rare earth metals to build them with. They can't build more missiles because, again, they don't have the rare earth metals. They don't have the tungsten. So we are witnessing the end game, but it's still going to be, the news is still going to be circling around the drain at least until mid-November, but then or mid-September. But I think we really are going to be able to push these people over the edge this autumn, and I ask everybody who's in a position to do what they personally can so we can end this nightmare, remove the fake Trump and his criminal regime, and restore democracy to the United States, remove Zionist control, and turn the United States into a normal country that has normal relations with the rest of the world. That's what we all want. That's what we're fighting for. A return to government from the people, by the people, for the people. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. It says, Canada is per capita probably the richest country on earth in terms of resources, yet most people are barely getting by. Under Trudeau and now Carney, criminals were imported in huge numbers. Women no longer feel safe walking alone. Why, in your opinion, is Canada not the most affected by satanic rulers, even more so than the United States?
Well, I'm in Canada right now. I've been wandering around. I don't see a lot of poverty. And Mark Carney is turning around the rather satanic regulations imposed by the Trudeau government. He has stopped the importation of military-aged males from the third world. The immigration of these people has stopped, and the whole carbon tax business has been eliminated. So I think Canada is on the right path, but the rot that Canada is experiencing has started since 1972. That's when Pierre Trudeau was blackmailed by David Rockefeller and he handed over control of the Bank of Canada to the satanic Rockefellers. That control is now being taken back by Canada, and I believe that over time, Canada will stop all the horrific policies that have done so much to, damage a country that, as you mentioned, is some of the most resource-rich and talented people on Earth. And personally, I think now is a good time to invest in Canada, especially in the energy sector, because they're going to be supplying Asia with a large percentage of their energy. And also, I believe at the end of the day, it's going to be Canada that's going to help clean up the United States and restore democracy there. I'm a Canadian, and I've been very upset by what they've done to my country, but I am here now. I've been talking to Canadian government officials and others, and the situation has been turned around, and it will keep being turned around. You watch and see. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Last week you said there may be 4 million or more people born into the group of bad guys and that they should be re-educated. The problem is that they are different from us, and they don't seem to have empathy in the way that we do. So, in my opinion, I don't think re-education is a workable solution. What is Plan B?
Well, the Plan B, of course, is to put them all in jail and concentration camps, or some people want to execute them all. But I disagree with the premise that this is something that's born into them, that they're born into. They're turned that way by being born into such families. But if you listen to many of the survivors and the testimony, they don't like it. A lot of them wish they hadn't been born into such families. So I still believe that if we end this practice of that this can be turned around, I do believe still that put the adults in maybe on an island or something, or at least put them under complete supervision, and then take their kids to residential schools and educate them in normal morals, that we can stop this intergenerational thing. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a decision made by the public in general. And as more and more people hear about their crimes, I think there'll be a lot of people who won't be forgiving. But again, I believe that some people, if they're born into such a family, it's not their choice. And I think we ought to help them. But we don't want this to continue, that's for sure. We need to make sure that this intergenerational satanic infection of our planet, especially Western civilization, must be ended forever by whatever means necessary, so that we don't have any more perpetual war. It's all the other evil that is coming from this group, and the source of their power is control of the central banks and the mega corporations, and that has to be taken away from them. Once that happens, they're finished. Next question.
Hi, Ben. I need to ask you, as the expert on Japan, can you update us on the status of the purge in Japan to remove the Rothschild agents and CIA assets such as Taro Aso and other prominent politicians and members of parliament? They are deep state, most wanted criminals who need to be removed immediately.
You're right, and I have to be honest, I was hoping that when the top Khazarian mafia handlers like Richard Armitage were removed, that the Japanese will go ahead and liberate themselves. But clearly, this is not happening. So I expect that the Japanese underworld, the North Koreans, the Chinese will get together this autumn to try to restore real government to Japan and to end this crisis. But yeah, there's still the actions and words of the Japanese government make it clear that they are still controlled by Satanists, and they're also clearly still being terrified by earthquake weapons and weather weapons and think they have to obey. They don't understand that the White Hats can retaliate if such weapons are used against Japan. But yeah, I know unfortunately Japan is still a mess, and when I go back there, I'll call all my contacts, and I'm trying to rest because I know we have a big fight ahead of us. But liberating Japan will be a key part of that, and it's going to happen. But right now, yeah, the government is corrupt and evil and needs to be removed. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Can you comment on what Russell J. Gold is doing? He's now the global postmaster general in charge of the Vatican Bank and has rewritten contractual law by fixing definitions in the present tense. He's produced thousands of documents and a quantum banking system meant to be fair internationally with no backdoors, but none of it is in effect. And it seems nothing he has done will be recognized until the cabal is forced to step down. I think he needs help in getting his objective done. What are your thoughts?
We need to remove their control over the process of creating and distributing money. Then plans like Mr. Gould's or others can be discussed by the public in general, and we can hire experts and work out the best alternative. But it has to be done in public with a Bretton Woods-type conference, not just replacing one secret group with another. No matter how well-intentioned a new secret group will be, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and the only solution is public scrutiny. People can't do really bad stuff if everybody can see what's going on. So we need to replace the current secret system with a transparent one, controlled by the people and working for the people. And in such a moment, his plans might be very helpful. But right now, basically, he has no power. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. Trump gave the green light to build more nuclear power plants just a few weeks ago. Do we believe that's the real Trump, or is that a Khazarian doppelganger?
Well, Trump is a spokesperson for the U.S. military-industrial complex, and depending who last handed him the script, what he says will contradict what he said a while before. But all these plans about building nuclear power plants or rebuilding U.S. factories or whatever, they're not working because they will take many, many years. And in the meantime, the U.S. cannot pay its energy bills or its material bills. So I think that no matter what attempts are made to use this Trump spokesman to announce long-term plans to rebuild the U.S., it's too little, too late, and so things will fall apart before these plants can be built. That's my understanding. And personally, I think that the entire fake Trump needs to be removed. And there's signs that the white hats in the U.S. military-industrial complex are trying to get around J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance recently asked Zelensky not to attack food exporting terminals in the Ukraine, which are allowing Russia to feed Africa, and they ignored him. So we have people in the U.S. military-industrial complex around J.D. Vance who are saying we don't want to support, people who are trying to create starvation in Africa or other things. So I'm hoping that the U.S. military white hats will have J.D. Vance form an interim government which can then negotiate with the rest of the world for a reboot of the United States to turn it into a normal country. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself this week. We'll see you again next week, and then after that, hopefully we'll start the autumn offensive.
Restored Republic via GCR. Judy note, Trump's global purge now active, 7,600 troops on the border. QFS grid sealed. CIA tunnels collapsed. Golden Dome satellites online. 26th of August. 2026, as of Friday, August 28, 2026, President Trump assumes command of Planetary Liberation, a global purge operation spanning land, sea, cyberspace and orbital strata. Border operations were already under continuity command with 7,600 active troops stationed across Texas and Arizona now operating under the continuity of government directive. Ground-penetrating scans confirm the destruction of multi-layered trafficking tunnels stretching into Central America. These were not migrant routes. They were bioweapon corridors. JSOC has taken control of seismic sectors as new no-fly zones are activated above all strategic grid points. The soldiers are not guarding territory. They are purging it. Global financial system transition. The QFS transition was now in motion. Central bank servers have been frozen. 9 IMF black accounts terminated. 14 quantum transactions already cleared through QFS tokens. Private banking systems show debt restructure warnings as fiat liquidity is drained. The world's monetary pulse is being rewritten. The gold-backed ledger is live. Wednesday, 26th of August. 2026 debt jubilee executed, zero balances worldwide. Mortgages, credit cards, student loans with zero balances. Illegitimate taxes erased. NESARA/JAZARA fully activated in 209 nations. QFS displays updating live, the people are free. Trump's constitutional republic stands tall. Only Tier 4B participants will cross the threshold, the rest will wake up to a new system. The quantum financial system is not coming. It is here. Golden Dome strike. On October 18, 2026, Space Command executed the first orbital engagement in history. A stealth satellite known as Dark Bird, built for signal jamming by a China-Russia consortium, was neutralized by a precision frequency burst. The Golden Dome network was now active, enforcing full frequency control across low Earth orbit. Every transmission you read now passes through the QDome filter. Pine Gap recaptured. QNOTE has secured Pine Gap, Australia, once the crown jewel of the Five Eyes network, now operates under the Trump Alliance command. Over 140 contractors have lost security clearance. The base now functions as a quantum node hub, linking the QFS Golden Dome and Project Odin. The signal of control has shifted, from their hands to ours. NATO AI Prometheus has been terminated. The Soros-funded AI complex in Lviv, Ukraine has been neutralized. Heat maps show underground coolant failure, a sign of system extraction. The NATO AI grid is offline. The QMesh grid online. 14 quantum nodes now connect the US, Australia, Israel and Switzerland through a SWAB oceanic fiber grid immune to EMP. This is the backbone of the EBS infrastructure. Tests replicating 1960s nuclear data show instant reboot capacity under 0-point failure. If the world goes dark, QMesh will speak through light. Military purge completed under Executive Order 14,183, over 11,000 compromised officers were removed after biometric anomalies linked to DARPA neural experiments. The new arm of the military is trained in quantum warfare, electromagnetic immunity and biofrequency defense. They no longer serve governments. They serve the Republic of Light. Final stage initiated, all fronts were active. Borders secured. Orbit cleansed. AI disabled. Finance restructured. The old world is quietly dying. The new one is humming. The EBS will not be announced. When the frequency switches, you will already be inside the grid. Friday, August 28, 2026 was the point of no return. The Empire of Shadows is collapsing. The Republic was rising. The frequency of freedom was online and this time they can't turn it off. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. It was rumored that a member of the Iraqi Finance Committee has given the green light for the zeros of the dinar to be removed because the Iraqi market needs a lower denomination and also to fight money laundering. Breaking, Fauci in custody. Documents seized. Gitmo transport confirmed. The bioweapon architect just met the alliance, official. Be possible timing, warning, in less than 24 hours the United States government is shutting down for good. Wednesday 26th of August, 2026. On Monday, August 31, 2026, home units reach every registered family. Perfect Health locks in as planetary normal under White Hat Alliance rule and the golden age of unlimited vitality Tesla energy and total freedom stands irreversible. This video is reposted from the blog. The most explosive week in financial history is upon us. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, Sunday 23rd of August, 2026. Currently, there is no public access to QFS accounts. Any individual or platform claiming they can help you redirect your funds into a QFS account today is engaging in a scam. There have been reports of individuals losing tens of thousands of dollars to these predatory schemes. The transition to the new financial system is a military-grade operation. When it is ready for public integration, it will not come through unsolicited internet offers. American Media Group, Sunday 23rd of August, 2026. TI-4B currency exchanges were being reported across the U.S. These were test exchanges done by private appointment. Signed NDAs. Terminals flashing revalued rates for seconds before vanishing. Bankers speak in code. Security teams double their shifts. Redemption centers stand by in silence. Something is moving, quietly, powerfully and irreversibly. Twos. August 25, 2026. Bruce, on Sunday 23rd of August, 2026 the new value on dinar was available in country Iraq. Tier 4B, us, the internet group, should be notified for exchange appointments by the end of this week. We would start appointments the next day. Project Ascension, the final stage of Tier 4B, Quantum Financial System into 26th of August, 2026. The time has come. The three pillars of human liberation are now merging into one, Quantum Financial System, Tier 4B and MedBed technology. What began as separate operations has now been synchronized into a single mission, the Ascension Protocol. For years the elite controlled your money, health and future. But the Alliance built a new system, a quantum reality designed for human freedom. The first pillar, Quantum Financial System, QFS, the old banking grid is dead. Every transaction on Earth now passes through quantum encrypted ledgers monitored by the Alliance. QFS accounts are alive. They read frequency, not numbers. Your intent determines access. Those with pure purpose are cleared. Those with greed are blocked. This is the end of fraud, corruption and human enslavement through debt. Every dollar, dinar, dong, zim and XRP token is now part of a living conscious system. The second pillar, Tier 4B, the selected redeemers. You were never randomly chosen. You were called. The Tier 4B operatives are the frontline guardians of the new Earth economy. Each holder of historic bonds, currencies or redemption appointments were part of a classified division. They operate under military directives, protected by silent security forces known as the Omega Teams. Every redemption call, every NDA, every private code is monitored from Quantum Command. Those who complete redemption enter the grid, A new level of existence where wealth becomes energy and responsibility becomes sacred duty. The third pillar, medbed technology, the rebirth of the human species. Once you are cleared through the QFS, the next stage begins, biological regeneration. The final phase, Project Ascension. When the last redemption is processed and the final QFS nodes are activated, the Earth will shift into quantum alignment. The Worldwide Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, will announce the transition. The screens will go dark for 72 hours while the system reboots humanity. During that time all QFS accounts, medbed networks and Tier 4B channels will be synchronized. The old world will vanish. No more banks, pharma, lies. You are the bridge between worlds. The Redeemers, Healers, Builders united under one frequency, truth. Your mission is not to wait. Your mission is to activate. The future is not coming, it's already here. Be prepared, disciplined, unbreakable. The Alliance watches every move. The Ascension window is open. Step through it before it closes. This is the final phase of humanity's rebirth. Welcome to Project Ascension. Welcome to the new Earth. G Global Reset in motion, QFS plus XRP plus NESURA structured payouts unleashed, ZIM dollar redemption exposed. Redemption rate equals the amount paid for each ZIM dollar. Wednesday 26th of August. 2026 The global financial reset has begun. QFS, NESURA, XRP, and Stellar are activating structured payouts. Redemption rates for ZIM dollar holders are now established policy. They called the ZIM dollar worthless. It now ranks among the most powerful instruments on Earth. Redemption under QFS and NESURA has started, delivering structured payouts, digital gold, and XRP transfer highways. The structured payout program is pivotal for how redemption funds reach humanitarians. The redemption rate is the amount paid for each ZIM dollar, equal to cashing in bonds. Bearers receive face value multiplied by the negotiated rate. This transaction activates digital gold certificates in QFS accounts. The term covers the years payments continue, 10, 25, 50, 100 or longer as approved at the redemption appointment. Structured payout supplies consistent cash flow for humanitarian projects over the full term. Total funds enter a QFS structured payout account in the holder's name, administered by the Alliance. Payments draw only from this account. Primary principal equals the redemption rate times ZIM dollars redeemed and is not deposited. Secondary principal is the sum placed into the structured payout account at the appointment, equaling the total receivable over the term. 10% of primary principal sets the annual payment for the entire term. The first payment is issued at the appointment into the new QFS account. No waiting period applies. The Alliance confirmed this in 2026. The QFS pays no interest. Funds are available immediately without restrictions. Holders have no direct access to the secondary principal account. The quantum financial system rises against the cabal and banksters through quantum computing and artificial intelligence. Value rests on gold, platinum, and oil. Decentralized market forces replace elite control. NESURA provides the legal framework for debt forgiveness and economic justice. XRP serves as a fast low-cost bridge for cross-border payments while Stellar banks the unbanked. The age of financial freedom is underway for all sovereigns. The 10 Days of Darkness. Breaking, the stand-in protocols exposed, Tier 4 Wednesday 28th of August. 2026. The 10-day broadcast cascade has entered its most unprecedented phase. As predicted in yesterday's emergency update, the Prometheus quantum network has officially unlocked the vaults containing the specific disclosures promised to humanity. The timeline is moving with surgical precision. What was announced yesterday as incoming is now live on screens globally. EBS transmission number 003, clones, space fleets and the pharma collateral. Today's broadcast fulfilled every point of yesterday's briefing, delivering cold, cryptographic evidence that leaves zero room for denial. The stand-in confessions, live unedited video depositions and forensic DNA ledgers aired today, exposing the multi-decade biological substitution program. Confessions from high-level political stand-ins detailed exactly how clone proxies were deployed when original figures refused to comply with cabal mandates. Covert space fleet operations. Starlink feeds broadcasted raw radar imaging and flight logs from Solar Warden and Allied defense fleets. Over 400 orbital kinetic weapons platforms and directed energy satellite arrays have been officially targeted, boarded, and permanently dismantled by Alliance forces. Diplomatic accords signed. The broadcast concluded with the public release of declassified non-terrestrial interaction treaties signed between 1954 and 2021, officially ending the secrecy period and initiating open integration protocols. Phase 3 Operational Update. Total system cleanout. While these disclosures dominated global screens, Alliance ground teams executed targeted strikes on underground server farms and scalar towers in Geneva, Frankfurt, and Tokyo. With the legacy pharmaceutical and military command structures stripped of their leverage, local transition councils are taking control of municipal operations to prevent artificial supply chain disruptions. Incoming broadcasts. What comes next? Unedited courtroom transcripts and video footage from the military tribunals covering financial treason and central bank manipulation, release of the Tesla free energy blueprint files and immediate steps for local power grid recalibration to zero-cost energy. Formal activation of the global QFS redemption centers and instructions for citizen asset recovery packages. Live global address from Alliance Command detailing the official transition to sovereign constitutional governance. The roadmap is playing out step by step. The spell is completely broken. Stand firm, stay united, and watch history unfold in real time. J. The Great Reset is fast approaching. Wednesday, 26th of August. 2026. 10 days. EBS activation soon. Old system will be wiped out. Embrace the new system. The Great Reset, an initiative originally promoted by the World Economic Forum, WEF, involving major shifts in economic. Critics view IT as a top-down global restructuring that could concentrate power, reduce personal freedoms, and overhaul traditional systems. Supporters see IT as necessary coordination on climate, technology, and equity. Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, long speculated in certain independent and alternative media circles as a potential nationwide, or global, alert mechanism that could deliver major announcements, possibly involving financial resets, disclosures, or systemic changes. Old system versus new system, a narrative popular in patriot, sovereign citizen, and alternative economics communities suggesting an imminent collapse or replacement of fiat currency systems, centralized banking, or governance models in favor of something new, often linked to concepts like Nizara/Jazara, quantum financial systems, or decentralized technologies. At 2:17 a.m., the canopy closed. A low vibration filled the room. Thousands of blue-white points formed a perfect human outline around his body. Then the screen changed. Chronological age, 82.4 biological age, 79.1 target template, 38.0 cellular memory lock, confirmed. The number began falling. 76. 68. 57. 44. At 3:05 a.m., it stopped at 37.8. When the canopy opened, the man sat up without help. The spots on his hands were gone. His tremor had stopped. The surgical scar across his chest had faded to a thin pink line. Then he stood. Not slowly. Not carefully. He stood as if his body had never forgotten how. He looked through the glass and asked, "How long have you had this?" Nobody answered. "My wife died waiting for a heart transplant," he said. "How long have you had this?" Oh, what we think we know. As of Thursday, August 27, 2026, Keanu Reeves exposes the Illuminati's 9 forbidden secrets for superhuman powers and success. After a lifetime in Hollywood, Keanu Reeves is breaking the most powerful code of silence in the world. Keanu is exposing the actual techniques used by occult elites to influence people without their knowledge, including methods for manipulating attention, emotions, attraction, perception and the atmosphere of an entire room. He reveals an ancient technique that is used to destroy someone's life while remaining completely invisible. Wednesday, 26th of August, 2026. Wednesday, 26th of August, 2026. Mel Gibson, Fox News. The United States Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor, Stephen Miller, a betrayal like we never seen before. The reason why those Americans in North Carolina, those mothers, those fathers, those precious little children, were left to die begging their government for help that never came is because the Democrats turned FEMA into an illegal alien resettlement agency. Wednesday, 26th of August, 2026, O'Keefe drops the Unalaska bombshell. Murkowski warned SAVE Act could force voters 800 miles to Anchorage. He flew there and officials told him no. Wednesday, 26th of August, 2026, Abbeygate bombshell, Hegseth's Pentagon finds classified documents stashed and hidden away in safes. Purnell, it became clear why someone tried to hide them. Wednesday 26th of August. 2026, explosive report, that's all in 1 week. Glenn Beck unloads Trump's stunning America First scorecard, SCOTUS, ICE, visas, election security and a manufacturing surge. P. The Rothschild family are descended from Eastern European occult Satanist Khazars. The Rothschild family is the Khazarian mafia and created/runs modern Israel, Federal Reserve, ECB, BIS, and Epstein Island. Project Odin martial law on Telegram Wednesday 26th of August. 2026. The Khazars were a semi-nomadic Turkic people that in the late 5th century had established a major commercial empire covering the southeastern section of modern European Russia, southern Ukraine, Crimea, Jordan, and Kazakhstan. They were nicknamed the Name Stealers by neighboring countries that grew tired of their criminal behavior as well as for their perpetuity for kidnappings, thievery, and road banditry, and are often known as the Khazarian Mafia today. Khazaria was formed as a kingdom ruled by an evil king named Bulan, whose court included people trained in the occult mysteries and black magic sciences of Babylon, Greece, and Rome. In 740 AD Kievan Rus, Russia, and other neighboring countries such as Persia, Iran, gave the Khazarian king Bulan an ultimatum that they must adopt one of the 3 Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity or Islam. You are a woman and you have your hair down like I do right now, guess what? If it's not covered, jail. Oh, you want to walk outside without a man? Jail. Oh, you want to speak your voice and use your opinion? Jail. Actually, sometimes they might unalive you for that. Oh, what was that? You want to wear any kind of clothes that you want to wear? Oh, what was that? You want to drive a car? Imprisonment. Like, there's a number of things I could go on about that people just don't understand here. So when people here are saying things like, you don't understand, like, we should allow them here because they came from a terrible country, yeah, they did come from a terrible country. However, you need to understand that they are not assimilating. Assimilating means that you go to a country or somewhere else, and you actually become a part of that culture. So if they're coming from an Islamic country, that means you don't wear full hijab. That means you work a full-time job. That means you actually contribute to society. But none of them do that. If I go to their shithole countries that they're coming here from, I can't play Christian music. I can't go talk to somebody about God. You know why? Because I'll be put to death. But they can go to any other first world country or any country of their choice and force the culture to change to be what their religion is. That's my problem. She explains how places like Dearborn, Michigan and Minneapolis are just nothing hit Muslims in full burqas and that's not assimilating. She's right, Islamic attire should be banned. Islam itself should not be recognized as a religion because it's not. Islam is a society, it's a government. B. Possible timing. No official time frame has been given for EBS activation where we will isolate at home for 3 to 6 weeks as global martial law suspends media, internet, phone and takes over TV and radio to present 8-hour documentaries 24/7 about what is going on while the military takes down cabal-controlled governments worldwide and makes mass arrests of corrupt global elites. Tier 4B Nizar Jazara ISO 20022 Monday, August 24, 2026. D. Global currency reset. The most explosive week in financial history is upon us. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy Sunday 23 August. 2026. Currently, there is no public access to QFS accounts. Any individual or platform claiming they can help you redirect your funds into a QFS account today is engaging in a scam. There have been reports of individuals losing tens of thousands of dollars to these predatory schemes. The transition to the new financial system is a military-grade operation. When it is ready for public integration, it will not come through unsolicited internet offers. American Media Group Sunday 23 August. 2026. Thai 4B currency exchanges were being reported across the U.S. These were test exchanges done by private appointment. Signed NDAs. Terminals flashing revalued rates for seconds before vanishing. Bankers speak in code. Security teams double their shifts. Redemption centers stand by in silence. Something is moving, quietly, powerfully and irreversibly. Nizar and Jazara connected on Telegram Sunday 23 August. 2026. Tier 4B, US, the Internet Group, Should be notified for exchange appointments by the end of this week. We would start appointments the next day. All rates of 9 currencies, 51 currencies were to revalue, were solid on the screens. The Iranian rial was not on the list and would not be until sanctions against the country was lifted. On Thursday or Friday 26, 27, August 28, 2026 the EBS disclosure should come out, along with the announcement of the new U.S. note. $2,500 cash can be taken from the redemption center after your exchange. Bank of America, Chase and Citibank will be open on Sundays for a get-to-know-your-customer. Save the Children, Justin Bieber reveals Diddy and Usher drained his blood in sickening adrenochrome rituals. Justin Bieber finally came forward and accused his former mentors, Sean Diddy Combs and Usher, of something truly vile. He says they spent years slurping on his blood while he was under their What we think we know as of Wednesday 26 August, 2026, besides the compromised election machines, dirty voter rolls, and non-citizens voting, the people running our elections are corrupt and pose a major threat to the future of our elections. A perfect example was the State Farm Arena election fraud caught on camera from the Georgia 2020 election, where fraudulent ballots were hidden in suitcases under a table and pulled out after observers were told to leave, running the same stacks of ballot all throughout the night until Biden cleared the margin of victory, stealing the election from Trump. The most important people of an election are the people who count the ballots, and the ones counting in our elections are compromised. The WHO, World Health Organization, is in crisis, mass resignations are underway, and 2,400 staff members are being laid off due to bankruptcy, 900 of them in Geneva, amounting to 25% of the workforce. Chief Scientist Jeremy Farrar has resigned after it emerged that the virus's origin was concealed, while Chief Data Officer Yukiko Nakatani has fled amid fierce internal disputes. The organization is sinking like a ship going down in the storm. August 25, 2026, breaking special report, Carney's war isn't about trade and Besant knows it. August 25, 2026, Economic D-Day, Trump unleashes Besant against Iran, removed from the U.S. dollar system. The clock just started ticking. August 25, 2026, Deep State exposed. Your tax money laundered to George Soros. Shock report exposes how USAID funded street protest handbooks to overthrow democratically elected governments. August 25, 2026, Mega Bomb. Over $6.5 billion stolen from healthcare. Massive federal takedown exposes scammers living like kings on your tax dollars. August 25, 2026, South Carolina H4624, the Clean Air Act explosion, Climate Engineering Evidence Report, Dane Wigington exposes global atmospheric poisoning, full testimony report. Hillary Clinton's email to Pizza Man John Podesta, confirms the Kenyan administration, Barack Obama plus Hillary Clinton plus Saudi Arabia plus Qatar founded ISIS, Julian Assange, Nizar and Jazara on Telegram. August 25, 2026, Julian Assange, ISIS is funded by Saudi Arabia and Qatar. This is the most significant email in the whole collection. The government of Saudi and the government of Qatar that has been funding ISIS. Under Hillary Clinton, and Clinton emails revealed that the largest ever arms deals in the world was made in Saudi Arabia, more than $80 billion. In fact, during her tenure as Secretary of State, total arms exports from the United States in terms of the dollar value doubled. In other words, during Hillary Clinton's time as Secretary of Bribery, the Obama's State Department approved massive arms sales, particularly to Saudi Arabia. The result was the rise of terrorist groups like ISIS, funded largely by the very people who were bribing the Clinton Foundation, were in large part due to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Medbeds K. What was once hidden within top-secret military installations and classified space programs is now being delivered to humanity's doorstep. Medbeds.
By 10 a.m. on 9/11, the world was in smoke. Announcement silenced, gold and silver inside Building 7 vanished, and truth buried beneath rubble, and stole trillions to protect a system of slavery. But Nasara did not die. The Chief Justices placed guardians to monitor. The ink on Clinton's signature was valid. The law stood, just not announced. Watch the water. The next target of the cabal's World Economic Forum, your tap water. From the World Economic Forum, agenda collaborator, Mariana Mazzucato. Climate change is too abstract for people to understand, but the next water crisis is something everyone will rally around. Translation, The water from your tap no longer belongs to you. It belongs to global bureaucrats and WEF cronies like Bill Gates who will manage it for the planet. For 2 decades, the deep state played out wars in the Middle East, manufactured recessions, financial crashes, built silently, and continuity of government was activated. Starlink satellites aligned. The quantum financial system was constructed, a living network immune to corruption, tied not to fiat but to transparency and truth. The emergency broadcast system awaits, armed ready to override every screen on Earth. The QFS hums beneath the surface, prepared to dissolve debt, erase slavery, money, and install a new golden architecture. The plan was precise. When the switch was thrown, 2 streams collided. First, the EBS, unmasking crimes, broadcasting tribunals, forcing the world to face the scale of deception. Then the QFS, resetting the global economy, ending the Federal Reserve, releasing humanity from a century of theft. They will call it the Great Silence. 10 days where the internet goes dark, banks shutter, ATMs fail, and every channel becomes disclosure. When the signal breaks, the world you knew will collapse in hours, and the world they hid will rise in light. Nasara and Jasara, the gold asset-backed quantum financial system of 209 countries and the worldwide emergency broadcast system will soon converge. When that moment comes, nothing will ever be the same again. No official time frame has been given for when the emergency broadcast system will trigger a 3-day event, followed by 10 days of communication darkness. Perhaps 3 to 6 weeks where all across the world will be isolated at home or a place of their choice. The Global Military Alliance will suspend the media, internet, phones, TV and radio, and play 8-hour documentaries 24/7 about what is going on. During that time, the Global Military Alliance will take down what was left of the Illuminati deep state cabal. Their governments make mass arrests of corrupt global elites, hold military tribunals, and carry out sentences on Satan worshiper pedophiles who have committed treason, child sacrifices, and crimes against humanity. What we thought we knew but didn't really know, now we're supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style, and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. U.S. aid administrator at Senate hearing. USAID funded bioweapons programs using tax dollars, which meant that taxpayers were funding their own deaths. Saturday, August 22nd, Hurricane Lala aftermath on Hawaii Island, South Point. There's a link on Facebook. And I'm sorry, I've never heard of hurricanes hitting Hawaii. I guess they do, but that's a first for me. So I'm thinking deep state. I know that they're still in control of the weather and earthquakes and stuff. I don't know how they're doing it, but obviously they are. Remember when the Democrats hired 87,000 a-holes to go after the American taxpayer? Yes. They weaponize everything. Here is one of them, Alex Mina, who works in the IRS Criminal Investigations Division, caught on hidden camera. The Internal Revenue Service has no problem going after the small people, shooting people, putting people in prison, and destroying people's lives. The IRS is unconstitutionally using AI to access everyone's bank accounts nationwide. Like in 6 months, AI, were able to capture $500 million. When I went to the criminal investigation unit, the guy said, the first person you shoot, you're going to remember. But after that, you're going to shoot like 100 people. You're not going to remember any of them. IRS agents are evil a-holes. They are the definition of an a-hole, all of them. End quote.
C. Prepare yourself. The storm will break with QFS. Tier 4B 22 AUG 2026 from Sun. 23 AUG 2026. The QFS is no longer a test. It's the dawn of transparency, accountability, and freedom from cabal control. The countdown has begun, and there's nowhere left for the elites to hide. The quantum financial system is here to end every lie and deception ever used against us. Mon. 10 AUG 2026 breaking. The 4 portals of the quantum financial system, QFS, USA, European, UK, Netherlands, and Asia-Africa-Australia portals are set to connect and transform the world. Discover how these portals will bring transparency, asset-backed currencies, and global financial freedom. ending deep state-controlled quantum financial system in the quantum financial system, QFS, is here, set to forever change how the world handles money. The era of corrupt financial practices, hidden transactions, and deep state manipulation is coming to an end. The QFS promises transparency, security, and direct control over personal finances. The system operates through its 4 portals, gateways connecting the world's financial networks. This isn't just another financial overhaul, it's a transformation of the global economy. The 4 portals of the QFS connect continents and bring financial autonomy to millions. 1. USA Portal, the lifeblood of the Americas. Covering North, Central, and South America, the USA Portal ensures connection to the QFS across the Western Hemisphere. The introduction of the U.S. note, USN, an asset-backed currency tied to gold and silver, replaces the corrupt system centered around the U.S. dollar. With this shift, the Federal Reserve's control over the American economy ends, marking the collapse of the fiat system. Impact on everyday people. The USA Portal will empower citizens from Canada to Chile with direct access to their wealth, free from bank manipulation. This portal brings unprecedented stability through the USN, an asset-backed currency providing financial sovereignty across the continent. 2. European Portal, reclaiming financial sovereignty. Breaking free from the euro, the European Portal allows countries like Netherlands, Spain, Italy, France, and Germany to reclaim financial independence. Each nation will issue its own QFS-linked currency backed by assets, ensuring the end of financial manipulation. A united, yet independent Europe. Under the QFS, each country will manage its economy independently while retaining transparency and security. This shift means financial freedom for individuals and national autonomy, signaling the end of the deep state's control over Europe's financial systems. 3. UK Portal, a return to sterling strength. The UK Portal introduces the sterling token, an asset-backed currency restoring financial independence to England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. This new currency, supported by the QFS, ends Britain's reliance on the euro and deep state influence, with each transaction secure and traceable. 4. Asia-Africa-Australia Portal, a continental shift in power covering a vast area including India, South Africa, Australia, and all of Asia. This portal represents a seismic shift in global financial power. The QFS will support these nations with asset-backed currencies, promoting economic prosperity from their own resources rather than exploitation by external forces. Unleashing a new wave of prosperity. Asia, Africa, Netherlands, and Australia, once battlegrounds for financial manipulation, will experience newfound prosperity. This portal promises a future where wealth benefits the people and economies of these regions, free from external interference. The grip of the deep state is loosening. Possible timing. D here is what the legacy banking cartel is desperately trying to censor before you wake up tomorrow morning. 22 Aug. 2026, the Tier 4B activation. The secure satellite uplink to the non-custodial Tier 4B validation terminals has transitioned from testing to live. The asset-backed sovereign funds, backed by the physical gold re-anchored to the U.S. Treasury, are now officially mapped to the local routing networks. The quantum handshake. Over 12,000 regional and local credit unions have successfully integrated the ISO 20022 protocol over the last 4 hours. The corrupt Tier 1 megabanks that refuse to comply with the asset-backed standards have had their settlement privileges permanently revoked by the military alliance. The NESARA liquidations, the hidden offshore pools used by the globalist corporations to short the markets and suppress humanity, have been completely drained. Those funds have been legally redirected into the primary redemption accounts. The distribution protocols are locked. They told you the old system was too big to fail. They wanted you to believe you were trapped in their endless debt loop forever. Look at the sudden, forced updates on your personal banking apps tonight. Look at the emergency internal memos leaked from the administrative floors of Wall Street. The old world didn't just crash. The keys to the entire global wealth ledger were handed back to the people. The ghost currency is evaporating. The real asset-backed era is officially online. You held the line through the darkest hours of the deception. Now, watch the monitors as the old machine loses its power forever. QFS Integration Live ISO 20022 Sovereignty to Reconciliation BGNS. The countdown has hit 0. F. Global Currency Reset. On Thursday, 20 Aug. 2026 at exactly 8:14 p.m. Eastern, the old SWIFT Central Clearinghouse experienced a permanent database decoupling. The secondary handshake between the central banks of the G7 nations officially returned a terminal failure message. Thursday, 20 Aug. 2026 Bruce, the Big Call Universe, IBIS, COM, 667-770-1866. A higher-up said they were handling bonds in Miami, Geneva, and Reno. A military intel person said that as of 6 p.m. EST on Wed 19, 2026, there was a 5-day window where Tier 4B redemption appointments and be able to start appointments. That would take it to Moan. 24 Aug. 2026. On Thursday, 20 Aug. Redemption Center leaders received saying that they should go into work on Fry. 21 Aug. 2026 Paymasters report full release. Direct confirmations have been sent to private transaction platforms in Reno and Zurich, confirming that Tier 1 and Tier 2 payouts had been finalized. Tier 3 and Tier 4 are be next. If you're in the private groups, get ready now. Military movements confirmed to secure transition. Sources in Intel report increased security around major financial centers. Private security details have been deployed to Reno, Zurich, and Dubai. Special ops teams were making sure no foreign interference upsets this historic shift in global power. Aug. 2026 on Moan. 24 Aug. 2026, the ISO 20022 messaging that defines how banks transmit payment information completes its transition across all major banking rails. For the first time in history, SWIFT, Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of England, BRICS, IMF, and all high-value cross-border payment systems will speak the same transaction language. The first week in SEP 2026 redemption centers will start processing live appointments in accordance with full GESARA protocol. The schedule is already being filled with authorized Tier 4B participants, according to sources within 2 U.S. agencies. Judy note, your exchange redemption appointment. As far as I know, which may be incorrect, anyone who has bought foreign currency and or ZIM bonds from a valid dealer, text or phone to obtain an 800 number and code used to set your exchange redemption appointment at a redemption center of your choice. Get your plans projects together and don't wait around for this to happen without being ready. No straight cash will be given. You are in charge of your funds and can place funds in different accounts. Advisors will be there to assist you with your funds and will help guide you in your projects or choosing one on the list. You can take to your appointment. Advisors' bank contacts, if you have already spoken to a specific person, /friend any person you want to assist you. ZIM cap information is changing daily, but as of now they are paying as follows. No projects equals 15 million. No matter amount you might hold with projects equals first 2 bond notes are 1-to-1 after this 25 million per 100 T, up to 30 bond notes. To negotiate further you will need to return. If you were a ZIM holder and in dire medical need, you might be able to set a med bed appointment at your redemption. This was because they are anxious to get the humanitarian programs going that were funded by your ZIM bond. Movements of Global Military Alliance as of 11 Aug. 2026, 22 Aug. 2026 Global Military Alliance secures mainframe access to central intelligence and deep state data servers, exposing direct funding trails to global manipulation campaigns. Emergency Special Operations teams confiscate multi-billion-dollar offshore gold reserves and digital asset vaults tied to compromised sovereign wealth funds. Mass detentions of senior international corporate directors and financial technocrats implicated in designing global supply chain bottlenecks and artificial scarcity networks. Space Force defense units neutralize foreign satellite infrastructure used by elite cabal networks for encrypted command and control operations. Over 100,000 military tribunal prosecutors and investigators deployed across secured jurisdictions to process millions of pages of recovered digital evidence and witness depositions.
Tuesday, August 11, 2026. Complete shutdown of compromised SWIFT, financial messaging nodes, and commercial banking verification gateways. Global command structures confirm that the transition to direct military oversight of critical infrastructure is 100% complete. The old power structure is unable to recover or communicate. All secure channels are on standby for the imminent broadcast of documentary archives and prosecution logs across all intercepted networks. The final systematic dismantling of the elite class is reaching its culmination. Maintain operational awareness and monitor verified disclosure feeds. The reset. Breaking dossier. Jerome Powell is enemy number 1 of finance. Federal court moves to crush Federal Reserve, Tier 4B.
A federal court just dropped the hammer on Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, revealing a secret economic war on the American people. Powell, who has long been portrayed as an impartial economist, is now revealed as a globalist enforcer running a monetary dictatorship behind closed doors. His title is Fed Chair, but what is his job? The number 1 financial enemy. The Federal Reserve has been a shadow government for over a century, setting interest rates, printing debt-based currency, and engineering booms and busts while being above the law. But under Powell, it became something darker. The execution arm of the globalist Great Reset. It is not serving America. It serves Davos, and the numbers tell the story. Over $2 trillion in deficit spending, $1 trillion in interest payments. And mortgage rates so high that the American dream has collapsed. At the same time, Wall Street, BlackRock, and the WEF dine on the spoils. Trump was correct. The Fed doesn't work for the people. It serves a world syndicate. In a landmark decision, a judge ordered an emergency injunction stopping the secretive FOMC meetings of the Fed. The court has indicated that Powell's fortress of secrecy could be breached, revealing decades of backroom deals, rate manipulation, and financial sabotage. Trump's legal offensive is in full swing, demanding total transparency, criminal investigations, and the destruction of Powell's grip on the American economy. This is not policy debate, it's economic war. Powell's Fed has used rate hikes to crush families, block homeownership, and swell big bank profits. Gold has soared 28% this year, a global vote of no confidence in Mr. Powell's leadership. The dollar is in free fall. The pain is real and not accidentally. Behind Powell, a deeper alliance is emerging. BlackRock and Big Pharma are a triad of finance that is using the central bank system to take away Americans' wealth, ownership, and independence. Powell is the man on the gun. The money comes from the Fed. BlackRock purchases the assets. Pharma keeps you trapped on lifetime prescriptions, paid for by inflation printed by the Fed. That's coordinated control. Trump is the only world leader calling this out by name. While others bow down to Klaus Schwab and the tyranny of central banks, Trump is calling for a full audit of the Fed, criminal charges against Powell, and a complete separation from the globalist cartel. This is not about interest rates now, it's about national emancipation. America is writing its Declaration of Financial Independence now. No more unelected bankers running the economy. No more secret meetings deciding your future. No more debt slavery in the name of policy. End the Fed. Break up the cartel. Justice for the treasoners. Jerome Powell is not a public servant. He is the monetary arm of an occupying power, and his empire is coming apart at the seams.
The quiet reset is no longer quiet. 26. The public still believes they're living in the same world they woke up in yesterday. But the foundations of that world, the banking grid, the medical grid, the communication grid, even the military command structure have already shifted into a new architecture, and the transition happened without a single announcement. The first crack appeared on 11/11/2025 when a secure military code in Colorado Springs went dark for exactly 47 seconds. They called it a routine system refresh, but the internal logs proved otherwise. Those 47 seconds marked the first QFS mirror link activation, where the old ledger was shadow copied into the new quantum frame. Then came the second break, 12/7/2025. 3 federal clearing servers in Washington, D.C. went offline in a synchronized pattern that has only been documented twice in American history. The press didn't cover it, the banks pretend nothing happened. But insiders know that this was the moment the old financial lifelines were severed from the global routing network, and that was merely the prescript. On 12/10/2025, 3:14 UTC, the back end of the system registered the first Tier 4 reauthorization ping. The signal wasn't visible to the public. It was encoded, transmitted through quantum routers, and acknowledged by a classified military oversight node. Only 24 people in the country even saw it. But that was the moment the transition stopped being theoretical and became operational.
What we think we know as of Sun. 23 Aug. 2026. Insane. Investigative journalist reveals there is nothing stopping illegal aliens and Hamas terrorists from voting in Minnesota elections. Anthony Rubin of Muckraker. I went into a polling place dressed normally, and beside me were 2 individuals who are dressed as Muslims. I told the worker that they had just been flown in recently from the Gaza Strip, that they were members of Hamas, that I was unsure of their citizenship status. I said to them about 3 times, I was like, just so you're aware, like they're members of Hamas. They just got here. They just kept telling me the same thing, which is, look, as long as you vouch for it, that's as far as our check goes. 22 Aug. 2026. Mike Lindell conducting largest election recount in U.S. history. A full-hand recount of the Minnesota governor's primary election will take place and will be privately funded by Mike Lindell, which will cover all ballots, counts, anomalies, and election night reporting. 22 Aug. 2026 Rep. Anna Paulina Luna says China is funding Democrat socialist candidates. DSA is absolutely funded and tied to the Communist Chinese Party. We know, for instance, in their mega donors like Neville Roy Singham, who are currently under investigation by the Department of Justice.
Saturday, August 22nd. This 1967 recording explains everything happening today. Saturday, August 22nd, 2026. Explosive report. 25,000 pages, 1 verdict. Guilty. Putin delivers 25,000-page mRNA dossier to Trump. Time to arrest Bill Gates for mRNA crimes. Video. Saturday, August 22nd. Bombshell announcement. Trump ends tax on Social Security. America's seniors finally keep what they earned. No tax on Social Security. Saturday, August 22nd. Breaking, Trump unloads on Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Thomas Massie. Calls them 3 losers in a scorching political takedown.
Q deep within subterranean command nodes, military intelligence teams have successfully extracted the master cryptographic keys to global surveillance networks, permanently severing the communication lines of shadow. 22 Aug. 2026 simultaneous tactical incursions target deep underwater fiber optic repeaters and orbital relay stations, cutting off the clandestine data loops utilized by international syndicates for market manipulation and coordinate sharing. Forensic accounting units secure multi-trillion-dollar corporate ledgers hidden inside sovereign tax havens, mapping out the exact capital flows that funded decades of covert geopolitical engineering. Autonomous defense grids activate across major continental sectors to enforce absolute airspace sovereignty, grounding all unregistered corporate aircraft and intercepting maritime vessels attempting unauthorized transit.
The transition to distributed local governance and hard asset monetary settlement is now enforced by joint task forces, replacing centralized compliance monopolies. Evidence vaults containing classified medical patents, suppressed energy designs, and advanced propulsion schematics are preparing for public release via decentralized quantum nodes. The architecture of control has been permanently dismantled. Verify all intelligence through secure channels as the new infrastructure comes online.
The reset they tried to bury it under ashes, fire, and fear. They thought by collapsing the towers, by silencing judges, by erasing entire case files, they could keep the truth hidden forever. But history has a way of clawing back to the surface, and what was signed in secrecy, what was buried in blood, is about to ignite the world stage. In the year 2000, William Jefferson Clinton was forced at gunpoint to sign the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, NESARA. The signature was real, the law was sealed, and the date for its global reveal was set. September 11, 2001, 10:00 a.m., Alan Greenspan was scheduled to announce it publicly. But at 8:46 a.m., the first tower was hit. By 10:00 a.m., the world was in smoke, the announcement silenced, the gold and silver inside Building 7 vanished, and the truth was buried beneath rubble and propaganda. They murdered thousands to erase one law and stole trillions to protect a system of slavery. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of farmers against the banks. The evidence was clear: fraudulent foreclosures, illegal taxation, a government in collusion with the Federal Reserve. The 16th Amendment had never been ratified. It was a lie, a century-long deception. Justices knew reform was inevitable, and they placed guardians to monitor the process. That process was never stopped. It was only delayed. The ink on Clinton's signature remained valid. The law still breathes. For 2 decades, the deep state played its theater: wars in the Middle East, manufactured recessions, financial crashes and bailouts. Presidents came and went, but behind the curtain, the same bloodlines pulled the strings. Yet during this darkness, another current was moving. The White Hat Alliance built silently. Continuity of government was activated. Starlink satellites aligned. The quantum financial system was constructed, a living network immune to corruption, tied not to fiat but to energy signatures, transparency, truth. Now in 2025, the fracture is visible. The old system bleeds. Currencies wobble, nations break from the petrodollar, and whispers of NESARA rise again. The emergency broadcast system waits armed, ready to override every screen on Earth. The QFS hums beneath the surface, prepared to dissolve debt, erase slavery money, and install a new golden architecture. The plan is precise. When the switch is thrown, 2 streams collide. First the EBS, unmasking crimes, broadcasting tribunals, forcing the world to face the scale of deception. Then the QFS, resetting the global economy, ending the Federal Reserve, releasing humanity from a century of theft. They will call it the Great Silence, 10 days where the internet goes dark, banks shutter, ATMs fail, and every channel becomes disclosure. But when that silence ends, humanity will wake into a reality it was promised long ago. NESARA fulfilled, QFS operational, EBS completed. What they buried on 9/11 returns like a sword through the heart of the beast. This is not speculation. The law exists. The infrastructure exists. The guardians exist. The only unknown is the moment of ignition. So prepare your spirit, steady your mind, and hold your ground. Because when the signal breaks, the world you knew will collapse in hours, and the world they hid will rise in light. NESARA is not a dream. QFS is not theory. EBS is not a rumor. All 3 are real, and all 3 converge in our time. The question is not if. The question is when. And when that moment comes, nothing will ever be the same again.
$50-year petrodollar system begins to crack. New American economic system: 0% income tax, 0% property tax, 0% gains tax. President Trump doubles down on CBDC ban. I signed a historic executive order banning any attempt to create a central bank digital currency. Gates, Bezos, and Thiel exposed, funding the world's largest pedophile network, turning schools into grooming labs under a total media blackout. The digital surveillance machine is already here. They can control your device, your data, your life. And from Mark Twain, patriotism is supporting your country all the time, your government when it deserves it. Judy note: the House of Orsini claimed to trace themselves back to the Julio-Judean dynasty of the old Roman Empire. According to Julian Assange, they are the heads, the 13 Venetian black nobility bloodlines. They founded the Jesuit order and control the Vatican. They also control the Rothschild and Rockefeller families. Domenico Napoleon Orsini, nicknamed Pepe Orsini, is the most powerful man on earth. He is known as the Gray Pope. The gray pope controls the white pope and black pope. Pepe Orsini wields unimaginable wealth and power, and he pulls the strings of presidents, prime ministers, and organized crime syndicates around the world from behind closed doors. This is who Trump and his global military alliance were fighting. Pepe Orsini is head of the deep state Satan-worshipping Illuminati cabal foreign banker elites who rule the world. They overrule the health industry and control the world's financial system, the way they control the people, and you don't even know it. Since 1896, when Tesla discovered how the body could heal itself through frequencies, these most powerful technologies have been locked behind closed doors by this deep state cabal, kept in private clinics, used in exclusive recovery rooms by those who could afford to never be sick, while the world was given pills to manage symptoms, drugs known to break down the body's immune system. The Satan-worshipping Illuminati cabal foreign banker elites were regenerating at the cellular level.
U.S. Inc. owned the Federal Reserve, collected U.S. taxpayer monies through their own IRS, and then sent the monies to the privately owned UK Crown in London. The Crown used the monies as they wished, and then sent it on to the privately owned by Rothschild's Vatican Bank and to their central banks across the world. About a month later, the monies were returned to a Rothschild cabal-owned New York bank, which then lent the monies back, with interest, to the U.S. government to pay their federal employees. Congress has never approved a balanced budget, so the unregulated monies, along with owed interest, created the national debt. With the 1933 bankruptcy, the cabal needed to save their central banks across the world, so they pledged every American citizen as collateral to back U.S. debt. Gold was confiscated. Debt-based money was introduced. Your birth certificate was converted into a bond and sold to international investors. The system calculated your worth, traded it, and profited from you without you ever seeing a cent. These elites don't see you as a free individual. They see you as an economic unit, TAXED, TRACKED, and controlled to keep the system alive. And they not only stole your taxpayer monies, but created a medical and pharmaceutical system where they stole your health as well. By 1954, the cabal had uncovered Nikola Tesla's discovery of what human frequency recovery through a med-bed treatment could do. That the body was an electromagnetic system, and when you restore the frequency, the body heals itself. 75 years later, in 2008, U.S. financial crisis was actually another bankruptcy of the independently owned, by foreign bankers U.S. Inc. They had thrown away the gold standard in the Nixon era and functioned since on non-asset-backed printed fiat U.S. dollar. They couldn't even pay the interest owed to the Chinese elders on borrowed gold they used to begin the American economy back in 1913. The Chinese elders were a group of families who happened to be Chinese, but lived in the Philippines and owned 80% of the world's gold. They lent the gold out to countries to start their economies, as they had in 1913 with the cabal. Their contract with the cabal ran out in 2008, and when the cabal couldn't pay them the interest, let alone the principal, on the gold, the Chinese elders refused to renew the contract, thus creating the U.S. financial crisis, labeled the mortgage crisis. By 2011, when South Africa joined BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the organization had formed a plan to save the world economy by doing a global currency reset. South Africa was described as a gold mine surrounded in diamonds and could back such an endeavor through creating Zimbabwe bonds. That's where Trump and his global military alliance came in to clean up the whole mess. A white hat alliance of Pentagon generals had been formed way back after President Lincoln's assassination. Lincoln was trying to release the nation from the White Hats began forming a plan to release the world's economy from the Satan worshippers' grip. In 1963, when the cabal assassinated President John F. Kennedy, the White Hats went full throttle in the plan to save the world. By 2015, they had succeeded in overthrowing the fixed election enough to place Donald Trump at the helm of the American people. The day before, on Friday, 7 Aug. 2026, Trump signed Executive Order Operation Final Accounting, which authorized the military to arrest deep state architects who have been committing treason against the country, some for 70 years. The next day on Sat. 8 Aug. 2026 at 14:47 EST and simultaneously at 47 federal facilities, the military arrested 847 deep state architects who had coordinated with 23 foreign intelligence agencies to sell American secrets. Also on Sat. 8 Aug. 2026, massive cyber offensives and data breaches neutralizing central banking and federal communications. Infrastructure. The military also seized classified documents, financial records, and communication logs that had been hidden for 70 years. They showed coordination between deep state operatives and the Chinese Communist Party and proved treason and financial crimes totaling $847 billion. The military has now seized that $847 billion in frozen assets from deep state operatives, offshore accounts, money laundering networks, and black budget slush funds. U.S. forces have mobilized military strikes against Mexico's cartel empire to hit cartel-run biolabs. This amendment was a strategic maneuver by deep state networks to prevent a populist president from holding power long enough to dismantle entrenched administrative structures. The strategic marker Trump 2028 serves as a signal for the final phase of legal reconstruction. By asserting that fraud vitiates every legal layer built upon it, the panel suggests that the original 1787 Constitution, which contained no term limits, is being restored as the primary law of the land. Under this framework, the upcoming years are viewed not as an extension of a civilian term, but as a transition back to a primal republic of Trump 2028 bombshell. The 22nd Amendment, the end of the two-party system, and the battle for a RESTORED American Republic video. B. Possible timing. President Trump has given the green light. He has activated the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, mobilized 300,000 troops, ordered the global military alliance to take over the mainstream fake news media and make mass arrests. 18 Aug. 2026, no official time frame has been given Trump's EBS activation, where we will isolate at home for 3-6 weeks, as global martial law suspended the media, internet, phones, and took over TV and radio to present 8-hour documentaries 24/7 about what was going on, while the military took down the Illuminati deep state cabal-controlled governments worldwide and made mass arrests of corrupt global. D. Global currency reset on Thursday. 20 Aug. 2026 at exactly 8:14 p.m. Eastern, the old SWIFT Central Clearinghouse experienced a permanent database decoupling. The secondary handshake between the central banks of the G7 nations officially returned a terminal failure message. Thursday. 20 Aug. 2026 Bruce, the Big Call Universe, IBIS. Com, 667-770-1866. A higher-up said they were handling bonds in Miami, Geneva, and Reno. A military intel person said that as of 6 p.m. EST on Wed 19, 2026, there was a 5-day window where Tier 4B would receive notification to set exchange redemption appointments and be able to start appointments. That would take it to Moan. 24 Aug. 2026. On Thursday, 20 Aug. Redemption Center leaders received saying that they should go in to work on Fry. 21 Aug. 2026 at 8:45 a.m. Thursday. 20 Aug. 2026 Paymasters report full release. Direct confirmations have been sent to private transaction platforms in Reno and Zurich, confirming that Tier 1 and Tier 2 payouts had been finalized. Tier 3 and Tier 4 are be next. If you're in the private groups, get ready now. Military movements confirmed to secure transition. Sources in Intel report increased security around major financial centers. Private security details have been deployed to Reno, Zurich, and Dubai. Special ops teams were making sure no foreign interference upsets this historic shift in global power. 2026 on Moan. 24 Aug. 2026, the ISO 20022 messaging that defines how banks transmit payment information completes its transition across all major banking rails. For the first time in history, SWIFT, Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of England, BRICS, IMF, and all high-value cross-border payment systems will speak the same transaction language. 2026, the first week in SEP 2026 redemption centers will start processing live appointments in accordance with full G. The schedule is already being filled with authorized Tier 4B participants, according to sources within 2 U.S. agencies. F. In the context of GCR, Global Currency Reset. In the realm of the Global Currency Reset, Tier 1-5 has an entirely different meaning. It represents a hierarchy of awareness, readiness, and access. Tier 1. Central banks, sovereign treasuries, financial elites. Tier 2. Private banking institutions, massive trusts, religious financial networks. Tier 3. Historical bondholders, private wealth families, whales. Tier 4A. Military-connected insiders and operatives. Tier 4B. The awakened digital community, YOU. Tier 5.
What we think we know as of Saturday, August 22nd, 2026. Friday, August 21st, breaking special report, the Outlaw Ledger. Canada is not a partner, it's an empire. Friday, August 21st, 2026, financial collapse warning. Professor Yang calls the U.S. economy a Ponzi scheme. Scott Bessent fights back as the 50-year-old petrodollar system begins to crack. Bombshell announcement. President Trump doubles down on CBDC ban. I signed a historic executive order banning any attempt to create a central bank. Friday, August 21st, explosive report. Scott Bessent erupts over tariff refunds. The American people had the money and we were forced to give it back. Friday, August 21st, blackout files. Gates, Bezos, and Thiel exposed, funding the world's largest pedophile network, turning schools into grooming labs under a total media blackout. Friday, August 21st, breaking U.S. debt clock detonation. Viral coming soon. Message inspires millions with vision of a new American economic system featuring 0% income tax, 0% property tax, and 0% gains tax. Friday, August 21st, Edward Snowden sounds the alarm. The digital surveillance machine is already here. They can control your device, your data, your life.
BREKING. The U.S. military has shocked Iran, quietly establishing a shipping lane in and out of the Strait of Hormuz, where now millions of barrels of oil are being moved per day. Axios, citing 2 U.S. officials, Dan. 21 Aug. 2026, some nights have hit 15-20 million barrels. This comes as President Trump and Scott Bessent confirmed pipelines are surging construction to bypass the strait. The Hormuz Strait's not gonna be quite as important in the past. The covert shipping strategy is beyond simply escorting outbound ships, Axios reports. The military is helping tankers enter the Gulf through the strait, pick up oil and leave fully. J. Exposed. Your birth certificate is a financial bond, and you're the collateral. 107 JFK Jr. 2026. From the moment you were born, a system of control was placed over you. Your birth certificate is not just a document. It's a financial instrument, a bond worth billions, traded as collateral to fuel a corrupt financial system. You were never free. You were turned into a commodity, a human asset leveraged to sustain national debt. This is the greatest deception ever perpetrated, and they never wanted you to find out. Ever wonder why every government requires a birth certificate? It's not about identity, it's about ownership. Just like a ship arriving at port requires a manifest for its cargo, your birth certificate serves as proof that you were entered into their economic system as property. Your name in all capital letters. That's a corporate entity, your legal fiction. That red serial number. It's a stock exchange number, used to trade your value in global financial markets. You've been turned into a financial instrument, a resource exploited by the elite while you remain unaware. In 1933, the U.S. declared bankruptcy and pledged every citizen as collateral to back its debt. Gold was confiscated. Debt-based money was introduced. And you became an economic asset. Your birth certificate was converted into a bond and sold to international investors. The system calculates your worth, trades it, and profits from you without you ever seeing a cent. This isn't conspiracy, it's documented financial fraud. Every government-issued certificate represents ownership. A stock certificate means shares in a company. A land certificate signifies property ownership. And a birth certificate, it signifies ownership of you. The elites don't see you as a free individual. They see you as an economic unit, TAXED, TRACKED, and controlled to keep the system alive. The truth is undeniable. The system thrives on your ignorance. It has turned every individual into a financial instrument, ensuring you remain blind to your own enslavement. But now you know, and knowledge is power. You can either continue living as a commodity, unknowingly feeding their machine, or you can take back control. The choice is yours.
Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. You know, I'm just like everybody else. I'm impatient. I wanted justice, in 2020, 2021. You know, a lot of things had to happen in order to get to this point. But as it relates to the national security emergency, I don't know if you heard Wayne Allen Root asked President Trump directly, you have the authority to call a national security emergency. Did you hear what he said back?
Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened. Now, here's, Juanito and I had a multiple hour conversation, and I absolutely agree that if we pulled the trigger too soon, and we did it today, there's legal challenge.
What did we do today? What happened today?
If we did the national security emergency today for the election in advance of the midterms, there's going to be legal challenges to it.
Hold on. Okay, so I kind of understand this. So you're saying the later the better. Basically, don't give them a chance to be able to prepare and fire back.
Oh, yeah. They'll get us wrapped up in the courts. There'll be legal challenges, right?
But they're going to do that anyway.
Well, okay, but here's the deal. Here's what will happen and this is why we're anticipating that it's going to be right about the time that we go to Vegas towards the end of September, because that's within almost 30 days of the election.
Well, Juan thinks October. Has he changed his mind?
September, end of September, beginning of October, within about 30 days of the election. He has to declare a national security emergency because it's not just an executive order that these states are and all these leftists are ignoring, especially in the blue states. They're literally violating the law that was put place back in 2018. And a lot of people don't know about this. December 18th, I think it was, of 2025. There it is, right there. The National Defense Authorization Act, Section 6805, required that within 180 days of that December 18th law enactment, they had to perform penetration tests of their election systems. Okay. And then when you do the penetration tests, you get a list of vulnerabilities, and it tells you, okay, all of these holes you got to fill, and you need to monitor them. So they have to identify.
Some of the states had to have done it. None of them did it.
Say that again.
Some of the states had to have done it, but you're saying none of them have done it?
Actually, I'm part of a team that contacted every single state, and none of them have done it.
So no states
have done it. None
have done penetration tests, which means
that they have to analyze
compliance.
Well, not just not in compliance. They can't do an election if they haven't done the penetration test, determine their vulnerabilities. And the reason why I say they can't do an election is because if they do not follow that law, then they're not in compliance with what they call HAVA. It's it's a election law. They don't get any federal funding from HAVA. And if they don't get funding from HAVA, they can't afford to do their elections. So they're not in compliance. They cannot do the midterm elections without having completed that. He could declare an emergency on this alone right here.
Okay, so they've got to know. They got to know the SAVE Act didn't pass. That was probably the best thing that happened, by the way, because we know this is what's in his sights now. But they got to know this is coming. The Democrats have to know, and that's why I think they're going to depend on the MSN to say that Trump is this tyrannical dictator. He's a Hitler. He's trying to steal the election, and that is why we're seeing ABC try to get ahead of the ball and sue the FCC now and kind of put this in court so that anything Trump does, they're already in litigation or something, right? I mean, does that make sense to you?
Here's another thing: is that the ODNI report hasn't been released. We already know about China. They've already been releasing information about the China's involvement in the election. And come to find out, China's involvement in the election. You know how they printed up the driver's licenses and shipped those to the U.S. That was done at the behest of a bunch of leftists here in the U.S.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's not all China. So here's what Juan O'Savin and I have come up with, that the military has to intervene. It can't be President Trump, pushing the brakes, pumping the brakes on this thing. That the military and the higher level, trusted intel people need to come in and say, there's no way we can go into this midterm election the way we are right now. It actually would, we already know that it has vulnerabilities. We can't do it because your vote won't be secure.
So Pete, would you say that maybe a press conference takes place and Trump is joined with military personnel at the press conference and they come out and speak on behalf of him?
Yes.
Or with him, so that it looks more legitimate, so it doesn't look like it's him. That's the way I would have to do it if I was him. That's the way I would do it.
Everyone become familiar with this term. It's called continuity of government. Okay? Continuity of government dictates, and this is how the military operates at the highest levels of our Department of Energy, right? If, let's say, the Eastern Seaboard is wiped out because of a nuclear attack, there's a line of succession. There's a chain of command that they still follow. They pull the 3-ring binder off the shelf and they go page by page and they say, here's what we do. Well, when we're in a condition like we're in right now, we're in a continuity of government emergency as far as the military is concerned. Certain things have failed. You can't rely upon the elections. Everybody knows this. Everyone.
So we are in that right now. That's what people feel.
We are in a continuity. There's no doubt about it. Now, I told Juan O'Savin that when I was in the military at the tail end, when I got injured, I actually wrote portions of the Continuity of Government Manual, FCD1, Federal Continuity Directive, because I did aviation weapons, and I read the manual that said that these are the conditions, that if this happens, here's how you get a nuclear weapon from the flight line into the deep underground military bases. It's a very specific.
You wrote that?
You don't even need a commander-in-chief, right?
You wrote that? Is that what
I wrote a portion of it related to how to secure our munitions, how to secure nuclear, biological, chemical, and conventional weapons during a continuity of government scenario, right? So we are, no doubt about it, in a continuity of government emergency. The military has to restore us back. It has to be done that way. Now, guess what? Posse comitatus prohibits them from doing it. You need a civilian authority. That's President Trump, believe it or not. You have to have that civilian authority that says we have to do this temporarily. FEMA or those elements in the Emergency Management Act, those people are the civilians that use the military to get this done. And they say, we have to secure. This is very well documented, by the way. I'm not just making this up. You can go look up FCD-1. Go look at the Federal Continuity Directive. Not you, but the audience. I don't want you reading that.
That's why.
Huh?
Oh, emergency planning.
Yeah, FCD1, Federal Continuity Directive 1, right, is the FEMA directive. And basically, the quasi comitatus says the military can't just come in and take over. You have to have a layer in between the military and the American people, and that's the civilian authority. FEMA has a lot of power. Emergency planning, yeah, if you look up FCD-1, the Federal Continuity Directive.
That's what I put. It just says, it says right here. I guess I can read here.
Yeah.
Federal. Yeah. Can you see it or no?
Yeah, it is. It is very, very detailed. It's very explicit. I believe that we're in it right now. They're not violating an executive order that came from President Trump. Congress actually signed into law the National Defense Authorization Act with 6805. I don't know if you have that graphic with the red lines on it. I mean, people could go look it up and read it. The section 6805 of the NDAA that was put into law is what they're violating right now. And they cannot get money for their elections. They can't afford to do their elections if they're in violation of the law. There's another one. I don't know if you received it. It's at 6805. That's okay. But that is there it is right there. That's the section. It's short, sweet, and simple, isn't it? Can you just read the red lines?
It's right to the point, isn't it?
It is right to the point.
Requiring penetration testing as part of the testing and certification of voting systems. Section 231 of the Help America Vote Act of 2002. HAVA. Okay. Help America Vote Act. USC 20971 is amended by adding at the end the following new subsection requiring penetration testing. Wow. In general, no later than 180 days after the date of the enactment of this subsection, the Commission shall provide for the conduct of penetration testing as part of the testing, certification, decertification, and recertification of voting system hardware and software by the Commission based on accredited laboratories under this section.
Yes. Now, by the way,
it is.
The accredited laboratory, guess who one of them is?
It's some kind of bullshit.
QUX Technologies can do
I was going to say,
believe it or not. We're actually certified. We've got government standard stuff.
Your technologies?
QUX Technologies. We've been involved in this for years now. We started out with post quantum encryption with this, but here's what we do, and this is why I do know this. Did you know about this law? Did you know about it?
No, dude. I mean, I heard it from you before, right? You're the one that told me this. Juan's never even said anything about this that I can remember. Not in this detail, at least. So no, I'll give you credit. You're the first to bring this to my attention. You brought it to my attention before, so I knew about this. But in detail, you're the one that broke this to me.
This relieves a lot of pressure on President Trump because could you imagine he's got like mail-in ballot stuff that was challenged to the Supreme Court. It was an executive order, right? And they say he's just being a tyrant. He's pushing the SAVE Act. He's trying to do that. That's getting stopped. This is law. Congress said you must do this, and they failed to do it. And are going into the midterms right now. Our elections are not secure. Period. They haven't followed the law. It was mid-June that they were required to do the penetration test. And what they do is they get a list of vulnerabilities, and they say, "Oh, these computers right here, China can hack into them. We need to plug those holes right there." All they have to do is identify their vulnerabilities. They haven't even done that. They have not even determined how China and any other country can get into our elections. Does that mean it's secure? Secure? It means it's unsecure.
That's just such. I mean, and they're all gung ho, aren't they? They're so ready.
Oh, they need this one election, dude. This is the one election that they need.
Oh man, you drive around El Paso, dude, and it's all Democrat signs outside of the people's yards. It's disgusting to me to look at, but it's like they're ready, man. They're ready to fight back and take the election back. So when Trump does this, can you imagine the backlash?
David Wilcox, who, according to my sources, was killed. He was we used to work together. He helped expose the real reason that John F. Kennedy was assassinated, which was he was trying to take control of the Federal Reserve Board and give it back to the U.S. government so that the United States could, plan to do good things for the planet, whereas the group who assassinated him, 90% of humanity, and enslaved the rest. And they operate very high-level hit squads, and my sources, in the CIA tell me this was another hit. And if the story they're putting out that he shot himself in front of the police is true, then they got to release that video. Otherwise, I won't believe it. And now we have to get to the real issue here, which is who are these real controllers? Everyone knows that this fake President Trump is reading scripts handed to him. So who are these people? Well, I'll tell you who they are. When when I was first contacted by Asian secret societies with their hundreds of thousands of assassins, and I gave them a list of all the members of the Bilderberg, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and said this is the problem. They sent Leo Zagami over as their representative to negotiate. And then I went to Italy to meet the heads of this, what I call the Khazarian Mafia. And the person he took me to was Vincenzo Mazzara, of the Black Sun group, a so-called Cavalier of the Teutonic Knights. And these people were in contact with me this week. They said they wanted to arrange a meeting with Xi Jinping, and they basically threatened all-out nuclear war unless Mazara was made dictator of the planet Earth. And I got this directly from these people. We were communicating via Telegram, and nobody wants this, Black Sun worshipping. They say they're going to keep causing trouble until they get their way. And this is what is behind this news. First, listen to Scott Ritter. So, Scott Ritter is quite right. Iran did win the war. And the reason Mazara and his people contacted me is because the United States suffered its largest naval defeat since World War II. This news was immediately scrubbed from the internet, but there could be no doubt. Iran simultaneously sank 18 U.S. warships, including a carrier, the Lincoln, which should be repaired and sent back into action, and lost 6,000 sailors. Another 12,000 U.S. troops surrendered. And also Israel was hit with 2,000 missiles and is also trying to negotiate a surrender because the U.S. military refused to mobilize to fight on behalf of Israel. And the reason is that the sane people in the U.S. military and industrial establishment and the intelligence agencies know that, listen to Larry Johnson talk about what Iran has to say, and J.D. Vance. So, sane minds like J.D. Vance and people who aren't drinking messianic mind poison say we want peace. The Iranians are proposing to replace the satanic, racist state of Israel with the multi-religious, multi-ethnic state of Judea, and that they would live in peace with their neighbors, not cause eternal wars and turmoil and trouble, which is what they're doing now. They are the main source of world terrorism. And everybody knows this now. The whole world is sick and tired of it. And yet, even though J.D. Vance reached a peace deal with the Iranians, and they got their Trump to say, no, we're going to have to completely blockade them. And that led to the destruction of that task force. And he has to be removed. But we have to understand that we have to go after these Italian whack jobs who are controlling them. This is the Black Sun organization, Vincenzo Mazzara and his other people, and we have their names and addresses, and it's time to get to the heart of the problem. We have to go after these secret controllers, not just the puppets we're seeing on our TV screens, because enough is enough. The world wants to live peacefully and as friendly neighbors and work together for projects that we all agree upon, like stopping environmental destruction, ending poverty, and turning this world into a paradise. Not a dictatorship, or even worse. There is a group that is actively working for a rogue AI, and they want to replace us with robots. That's the people who want to decarbonize. We're carbon-based life. They want to replace it with silicon-based life. And it's getting to the point where we soon will not be able to distinguish robots from human beings, and they will be controlled by these vast data centers that they're rapidly building everywhere with artificial intelligence. Take a look at this film of how robots are advancing. The Chinese are saying in a couple of years we won't be able to tell the difference. So this is a moment of decision. We have to decide to fight for humanity, and we have to remove this satanic force that has been infiltrating the West for millennia. And we're really close to final victory for the human race. Let me just check my notes to see if there's anything else I need to say here. Well, yeah, there's some news. Japan has just sold all their U.S. treasuries. I bet you didn't see that anywhere because they're faking the market. It's all an illusion at this point. Their magic money printing machine is not working. And because they lost the war in the Middle East, and because the Iranians are actively moving in. They no longer have the control of the Middle Eastern oil money. So that really was a nail in their coffin. And, you know, there is a plan to, you know, set good government in the West, which would start with a jubilee. That would be a cancellation of all debt, public and private, and then set up a future planning agency for the West to ask people what kind of world they want to live in, what kind of future they want, how can we get there, and hire the smartest people on earth to try to make it happen in a realistic way. Not some group of people building giant data centers, 90% of us, and enslave the rest, which they say openly. You know, Trump, or the fake Trump, is a member of Chabad, and Chabad says 90% of humanity and enslave the rest. And if you listen to the Iranians, they're saying, hey, we're not fighting against Americans, we're not fighting against Jews, we're fighting against the Epstein class, the people who torture and murder. And it's got to get kinetic. We're going to have to physically remove these people. They're not going to step aside quietly. And we need to start by replacing that fake Trump who replaced the good Trump, the real Trump, in June of 2025. He has to be removed, and J.D. Vance has to be made in president, and he has to start arresting the Epstein criminals. And then we can start. And it's long overdue. But I guarantee you that no matter what they do, these people have lost. The whole world is onto them now, and so is the vast majority of the Western people. So the days when they could keep in power by pinpoint assassinating the top leaders and blackmailing the rest are over. They cannot assassinate their way out of this one. And so their only choice is to surrender and hope for truth and reconciliation. That's the only bet they have. But we're gonna finish this, and the sooner we do it, the better. We have no other choice. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself this week. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi Ben, similar to your other readers, I'm very glad that the KM is now defeated and the East-West deal has been made as you wrote in the last weekly report. I expect humanity's major crisis is now broadly averted. As a new era of humanity has started, can we expect no catastrophic events such as total collapse of the world economy? Although some economic troubles might remain, such as high energy prices due to production caused by the Middle East war, many countries will therefore experience significant consumer price increases. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, the fact is there's plenty of energy, and when this is over, the idea of energy being expensive will end, and a lot of the hidden technology will be released. But as far as catastrophic events are concerned, it isn't quite over yet. I mean, agreement was reached with the British Commonwealth, the MI6, and the Europeans and NATO, but the group behind the fake Donald Trump and these Black Sun people are still going to try to cause a starvation crisis, and they tried to get Trump to start a nuclear war. He asked the U.S. military for the nuclear code so he could nuke Iran, and the U.S. military sensibly said no. So hopefully, we will be able to finish this. But until you see the removal of that fake Trump and the replacement of Keir Starmer in the UK, it's not quite over. Although agreement in principle has been reached, and when that happens, the era of artificial shortages will end, and everybody will be able to live like a millionaire. And this is not a pipe dream. This can be realistically done. All you need is competent economic management, which is what the West does not have now. Next question.
Hi Ben. Ben, Iran just closed the Strait of Hormuz as of last Friday. I'm not sure if it has been reopened yet. Do you know anything about this? And if it stays closed, what does that mean for the rest of the world currently?
Well, it's not closed. Okay, the Iranian oil ships are going through. The only thing it's closed for is about 800 ships controlled by the Israelis and by the U.S. Khazarian mafia. But For example, here in Japan, the price of gasoline is the same as it was before the war. So it's only a crisis for the owners of the Federal Reserve Board, but the straits are open for business, and this blockade is fake news. The U.S. does not have the ability to do that, and so it's just a lie. So they're not closed. Okay, that's the bottom line. Except for criminals, they can't get through. But Israel is surrendering, so hopefully it will be replaced by the state of Judea, and then all those ships will be able to go through. Next question.
Hi Ben, do you truly believe that China has removed their facial recognition cameras? I have difficulty in believing that because I thought China was a communist country. Is it possible they have only removed the cameras because they can now track people by other means?
Well, first of all, if you have one of these, this is a listening device with a GPS that tracks you all the time and listens to you all the time. So it's not just for China, but what I heard was that the U.S. was able to kill a large part of the Iranian leadership by following their movements through the street cameras and figuring out where they were hanging out. And the Chinese realized that they were also being tracked by these cameras, that they'd be somehow being hacked, and that's the reason why they removed them. Not out of any, sudden wish to protect people's privacy, which, doesn't exist in China. But nonetheless, they have also realized that this whole system of social points and constant tracking was not what Chinese civilization is about. They're much more into harmony than control. But, this information was given to me by Richard Koshimizu of the Japan Independence Party, and I'll try to get further confirmation, but it is what I heard. They removed the cameras. Next question.
Ivan, we have our last question for today. I heard that Guantanamo is building more cells. Is that true? And if so, do you know anything about it? And maybe you could let us know who's there doing that.
Well, the last time I checked on Google Earth, there was huge amounts of facilities being built there. I haven't checked for a while, but I'll ask around. But the thing is, we don't want to have secret trials that you read about from a single source, like Real Raw News, that is highly suspect. We want this to be public, and everybody on Earth can see it, like the Nuremberg tribunals. So, the days of supposedly secret trials in Guantanamo end. We must have public trials for everybody to see. We need to see people like Jared Kushner put in handcuffs and arrested in front of the cameras and face justice. Same with all these Epstein criminals. Enough is enough. So it shouldn't be Guantanamo. It should be prisons inside the U.S. Force. Because the Chinese and the rest of the world have offered to write off all American and Western debt, public and private, and replace a system of Babylonian debt slavery with one where the government creates money and uses it for the public good. And the offer is on the table, and the elites are refusing it because they're still trying to enslave us. And this war on Iran was yet another attempt. Well, let's take a look at the person that the so-called U.S. government sent to negotiate in Pakistan with Iran, Jared Kushner. Listen to him talk about, ethnic cleansing. So here's a guy who's starting genocide in order to profit personally, supposedly representing the U.S. government. This is the same guy who bought 666 West 5th Avenue, the home of Lucent Technologies, where they were developing microchips to implant into human brains. Is this who we want in charge of our government? I don't think so. And the problem is that these people do not want to give up their magic money machine. It's the source of their power. More than 98% of American congressmen accept money from AIPAC. That means they represent Israel, not the United States. And they're not going to give up quietly. They're not going to go away. But these are human slavers. And the whole world is realizing it. Take a look at this MP in Europe, pointing out what the whole world knows. The Nazis and Israelis are the same people. Other Jews to force them to go along with their insane plans. These are the people who run the United States. And they just lost a war with Iran, and it's the biggest military defeat in U.S. history. I had some talks with U.S. intelligence people and military intelligence, and they told me that 4,000 American soldiers were killed by Iranian missiles, and 3,000 of their family members, buried under their rubble as their plants they're working on were bombed. So this has been an incredible disaster. And yet, for some reason, we still have on our screens a visibly insane man, supposedly Donald Trump, and he was replaced. The one that was, and they seem to have come up with a replacement. But nonetheless, this person is not in charge, and this. So, we definitely need to invoke the 25th Amendment, and I believe that the answer is going to have to be J.D. Vance. Here you see J.D. Vance. I know he's connected to Peter Thiel and he's not ideal, but we need at least to step in the right direction with him. And here he is saying that he's going to go after pedophiles. That's important because it's this whole pedophile blackmail network that's fighting for their lives to prevent us from liberating ourselves from their system of Babylonian debt slavery. And they are slavers. For example, we now have a rabbi explaining to us that Ukrainian women were brought into Israel as slaves, prostitute slaves, against their will. Listen to him talk about it. So these are the kind of people who control the so-called U.S. government. And they even brag about it. AIPAC put out an ad saying, hey, yeah, we control all the politicians. They're bragging about it. And yet these people want to kill us. They want to enslave us. And yet somehow they still control the United States, but not the rest of the world. And we can be pretty sure that this is not going to last much longer. For example, the United States says they're going to block the Straits of Hormuz. Well, they can't. They didn't. It's a lie. They've been militarily defeated. What they're going to try to do next, though, and this one could be good, they're going to try to blockade the Straits of Malacca. That's where 80% of China's oil goes through. So at a higher level, the U.S. and China do have to come up with an agreement on a new system. And it is happening. And also, China is changing in ways people don't realize. They just removed 700 million cameras from their streets. You know how they had this facial recognition system? They had cameras everywhere. They removed the whole thing. They took it out. They said, no, we don't want to have a digital prison for China. Okay, so they are changing. And I think we can reach a deal with them where together we work to make this planet better. Not to enslave everybody to one tribe of Satanists, but rather to all of us decide together what sort of future we want to build, what sort of world we want to live in. This can be done. We just have to remove the criminals who control the Congress. And most importantly, we need to take their control away from the magic money machine. This is the important thing. We need to go after Scott Bessent. He is married to a man, has a bunch of children. God knows where they got those children from, and God knows what they're doing to them, but that's not the sort of person who should be in charge of the money of the American people. And he has to be removed. And as I keep repeating, the Dragon family has an offer on the table to offer with gold-backed money to wipe off all debt, private and public, for the entire West, and then provide unlimited funding that you don't have to pay back to rebuild your infrastructure. because the Asians believe that if you make your customer rich, they make you rich. It's a win-win solution for them. So the offer's on the table. We're waiting for an answer. And until we get one, we're just going to have to keep going after these people and keep doing it until they're finally and permanently removed from control of the West. This is very important. And it is happening. I mean, France, Spain, the UK, everybody in NATO has broken away from the Israeli regime. So the United States, the Israeli-occupied United States is more isolated now than it has ever been. All the Western allies are dumping them, and it cannot last much longer. But it's horrific to see we still have this madman on our screens every day pretending that he's somehow a leader. He's not. He is a puppet reading scripts handed to him. This whole thing has to be taken down, and we're going to require the military to move into Mar-a-Lago and all these other places and shut down these studios, the TV studios, pretending to be government. Enough is enough. I think we're all sick and tired of it, and I'll be lobbying everywhere I can to make sure that this nightmare ends. But rest assured, most of the world has already shaken these people off, and now it's just the United States and Israel that need to be freed, and Ukraine. Once that's done, it's game over. So we're close. Hang in there, folks. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Evan, we have our first question for today. A few years ago, you mentioned that George Soros is dead. Now there are people that still think he is alive and well. So, in your opinion, which one is it? I did a quick search on Brave Browser, which found that George Soros is actively alive and healthy as of April 2026, despite...
I was told that George Soros was years ago, and after I was told that, the Soros family put out an announcement saying they're going to, hand over control to his children. But after that, they put out an obviously fake video of Soros speaking at, supposedly it was in Davos, Switzerland, but the video was recorded in San Francisco. And I'm pretty sure San Francisco is not in Switzerland. But what's happening is they keep the pretense these people are alive in order to keep that sort of power structure intact. So they pretend he's alive to protect the real handlers, from assassination, and to make it look like, it's still the same people in charge of money. Because otherwise, all sorts of messy inheritance things come up. So that's why they keep replacing. But yeah, until they stop pretending he's alive, it's not over. So he's alive in the sense that he's alive as a lobby of a group of people who control the money printing machines. But the real George Soros is long gone, that's for sure. Next question.
Hi Ben, I remember you said in a previous video you can show up to an airport in Japan 15 minutes before domestic departures and nobody will search you, which we normally get through at international entrances. My question is, who's the ultimate controller of the international flight security control at global airports? IATA, so SUS, or WEF for clans. Even harmless wine cork openers are confiscated at Haneda Airport, and control for the sake of controlling is still imposed. Isn't there any pressure against those in control of international flights for Japan, and why would these so easy checks only be applied to domestic departures?
Well, the domestic departures do actually have security screening. They're just really efficient at it. But yeah, this whole idea of forcing us to go through that humiliating ritual at airports, it's designed partly so they can sell machinery. They have like these body scanners and stuff. But the whole thing does, the path leads to Switzerland and the Octagon Group. And, hopefully when this is over, people will once again be able to just hop on a plane, 15 minutes before flight. And then they can do that without any worrying about hijacking, because the technology's there. They can just walk through, and if there's a gun or something, it'll be scanned. So there's no reason to have these huge lineups except to humiliate us and to sell unnecessary equipment to airports. And it's really annoying. And hopefully this will all end soon. Next question.
Hi, Ben. In your last video, you mentioned that we have, quote, lost to China. Could you explain what that means to all of us as we in North America, are we now under Chinese control?
Well, what I mean is that the U.S. Moved their industrial base out of the United States into China. This was the leaders of the, big corporations. So China can now manufacture like 11 times more steel, etc. So the real physical economy has been moved to China, and this is not something that can be fixed overnight. So what needs to happen, and the Chinese are offering to help, is to once again rebuild industry inside the United States. And the reason the current ruling class does not want Chinese help to rebuild U.S. industry is because they want to stay in control, and that is what's blocking it. But essentially, these people thought that as long as they had their magic money machine, they could let the Asians actually build stuff. But they forgot that money is only valuable if it's backed by something real, and they lost everything real to back their money. So they lost the financial war, they lost the economic war, and they're losing the public opinion war big time. That's the reality. But, the American people and the Western people are waking up, and they're going to overthrow these criminals, and then once again we'll leave China in the dust. You watch and see. Next question.
Hi, Ben. In your last video at the 50-second mark, you say the U.S. military has announced a peace agreement with Iran that basically meant a complete surrender. How can you say that it is surrendering if it is only a ceasefire and not a peace agreement?
Well, if you look at the agreement that was published after Trump was put in the hospital, they said they're going to withdraw all U.S. troops from the Middle East. They were going to pay Iran compensation, and the other thing is they've lost the ability to block the Strait of Hormuz or to control the oil in the region. But what's happening now is the U.S. is moving to the Straits of Malacca, and that is a place where they can actually apply real pressure. So they can force China to reach a fair deal with the West, and that was what is going to happen. But as far as Iran is concerned, the reality is they lost big time. They lost 5 aircraft carriers. Israel lost 60% of their F-35s. They lost 15 Apache helicopters in like 5 minutes in Lebanon, and that means that they can't protect their tanks. And the missiles destroyed the fortified underground bunkers where the Israeli leadership was living. So no matter how much they try to fake the news, the reality is they lost. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. What is the deadline for the offer being made to pay off all of the debt? One can only assume that this isn't an offer that's extended into extended perpetually. What's going on with the army being assembled to hunt down the Khazarian mafia as well, and has it started yet?
Well, obviously it still has a long way to go because we still haven't seen anybody arrested for the Epstein case in the United States. But the fact that the Edmund the Rothschild Bank was raided, and the fact that a high-level Freemason assassination squad was arrested, this means that this very high-level control of the government is being removed in France, and that people like Kushner and Trump are underneath these people. So at a very high level, it is happening. But until we get these idiots off our screens, and we once again have, government, by the people and for the people, it's not over, and we have to keep fighting. But I ask for the military to please, go into Congress and arrest every single member of Congress who's accepted money from IPAC. That would be a good way to start. Okay, well, that's what we have to say this week, and hopefully there'll be good news next week. It's going to happen, but it's very frustrating to see these people still in power after all they've done, but it cannot last much longer. They don't have money, they don't have support, and they're internationally isolated. It should not be too long before Jared Kushner and all those people are handcuffed in front of the cameras. We've just all worked to make it happen.
Hello, Patriots. I'm at Restored Republic via AGCR update compiled by Judy Byington. Gold asset-backed global quantum financial system of 209 nations locked in. U.S. Inc. bankrupt and dissolved. Their fiat U.S. dollar dead. President Trump restored a constitutional republic, including new gold asset-backed U.S. note. Midnight window open. All systems are green. Patriotic hymns for 4th of July, America's 250th birthday. When truth collides with illusion, humanity will awaken in ways history has never before seen. Judy note, as of February 1st, 2026, the global quantum financial system was locked in and irreversible. 209 nations bore gold-backed currency. The fiat slavery system was dead. U.S. Inc. was officially bankrupt and dissolved. The constitutional republic was fully restored. Raids Sunday night, August 23, 2026, seized deep state assets. Trillions in stolen wealth has been redirected to humanity via global trust funds. A debt jubilee has been executed. Mortgages, credit cards, student loans erased under NESARA protocols. Prosperity packages preloaded for Tier 4B humanitarians. The EBS primary signal was live. Starlink satellites have total dominance with cabal backdoors eliminated. The 10 days of darkness window was opening, a communications blackout to install secure systems. The quantum financial system went live May 8th in 209 countries, running parallel to SWIFT since midnight. Every sovereign citizen is being assigned a quantum ledger tied to their birth certificate bond, the value they stole from you the day you were born. Your birth certificate has been traded as a security since 1933. Your social security number is a bond tracking number. Every human is worth between $100,000 and $450,000 in stolen compound interest, unlawful debt, and seized labor value. JSARA Article 21. Debt nullification is now computing. Every mortgage, every student loan, every credit card, every medical bill charged with unlawful compound interest since 1971 is being calculated and encoded into your ledger as you read this. The gold is in Fort Knox, 147.3 million ounces, but the audit team that entered March 14th under Executive Order 14271 found more. Gold repatriated from the Vatican Bank, from the Bank of England, from Basel, nowhere on any public ledger. Reference Knox Audit 2026-0314 Sigma. Total value? Not $692 billion, $43 trillion. That is the gold that backs your currency. Trump said, I want to see the gold, because he wants you to ask why. The answer? The gold is there, and $43 trillion more, and it is yours. Tier 4B notifications start 96 hours ago. That goes back to Thursday, August 20th, 2026, when trial redemptions began. Redemption centers were established in 800 locations, waiting for one sign. Trump walking into Fort Knox on camera and opening that 20-ton door. When he opens it, the EBS fires. The EBS fires, locking the QFS. When the QFS locks your debt disappears. When your debt is gone, you are liberated. They kept you as a slave for 53 years. Every dollar you owed was a lie. Every interest payment was theft. The guy who said they steal a lot is about to prove it live on television. The door opens.
Possible timing. No official time frame has been given for EBS activation, where we will isolate at home for 3-6 weeks as global martial law suspends media, internet, phone, and takes over TV and radio to present 8-hour documentaries 24/7 about what is going on, while the military takes down cabal-controlled governments worldwide and makes mass arrests of corrupt global.
Midnight window opening, all systems are green. Monday, August 24th, 2026. QFS accounts fully integrated. Prosperity packages prepared for Tier 4B humanitarians, military sources. Tier 4B redemption centers on standby. IQD, VND, ZIM rates coming into alignment fast. Initiating final sequence for Project Odin plus EBS. Engaging controlled blackouts to shield the transition. The Epstein Zero ranch files are out. Horrors exposed. Justice prompt. Jasara medbed deployment teams mobilized after darkness. Confirmed 8 million plus arrests made via CIA databases. Traitors gone. The Almighty planneth the fall of the wicked. Trust the timing. The light is on its way.
E. Global currency reset. The most explosive week in financial history is upon us. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy Son, 23 Aug. 2026. Currently, there is no public access to QFS accounts. Any individual or platform claiming they can help you redirect your funds into a QFS account today is engaging in a scam. There have been reports of individuals losing tens of thousands of dollars to these predatory schemes. The transition to the new financial system is a military-grade operation. When it is ready for public integration, it will not come through unsolicited internet offers. American Media Group Sun, 23 Aug. 2026. Thai 4B currency exchanges were being reported across the U.S. These were test exchanges done by private appointment, signed NDAs. Terminals flashing revalued rates for seconds before vanishing. Bankers speak in code. Security teams double their shifts. Redemption centers stand by in silence. Something is moving, quietly, powerfully, and irreversibly. F. Mastering QFS. Fund transfers, account setup, RV and redemption funds. U.S. Treasury Center on Telegram Moan. 24 Aug. 2026. QFS News. As discussion surrounding the quantum financial system, QFS, grows, this guide covers the central ideas behind QFS accounts, fund transfers, the global currency reset, RV and redemption funds, and the proposed transition. Understanding the quantum financial system, the QFS is described as a next-generation digital financial system designed to eventually replace traditional banking infrastructure. Its proponents claim it offers greater security, transparency, near-instant transactions, and protection against fraud, while reducing banking fees and eliminating traditional intermediaries. Transferring funds and opening a QFS account under the proposed model, users would establish and verify a QFS account, connect their existing bank funds, and transfer eligible money into the new system. The process is described as account creation. The transition to a gold-backed system, according to the QFS narrative, full activation is tied to the global currency reset, GCR. Existing currencies would be reset under a new asset-backed framework before entering the QFS. Fiat money would not automatically become QFS currency. It would need to be verified, exchanged, and assigned a digital gold certificate. Traditional debt-based banking would then gradually give way to direct account-to-account transfers, eliminating many fees, delays, and third-party systems such as SWIFT. RV and redemption funds. The original material claims that RV and redemption funds, including ZIM and revalued currencies, would enter QFS accounts as gold-backed funds during redemption or exchange. The bigger QFS vision, the broader narrative, connects QFS with quantum computing, the quantum voting system, GESARA, the alliance, and a completely redesigned global financial structure. These remain claims rather than publicly verified elements of the existing financial system. But the central QFS vision is clear. Replace debt-based banking with a secure, transparent, gold-backed system where individuals directly control their money and transactions occur rapidly, without traditional intermediaries. QFS wallet is now active. What has been whispered for years is now exploding into one explosive window. This is not an ordinary week. This is a critical point. They are in sync. INESARA/GSARA equals now in force letter 2022 equals fully operational letter 24D8 tier 4B equals first in motion iLedger reset instead of lifelong debt. I enforcement system breakdown removing financial control. Restored Republic I GTMO 2+ million indictments worldwide. All will be revealed by EBS martial law on Telegram Sun. 23 Aug. 2026, that is the cover story of the movie If They Died in Public. If they confessed and shared secrets, they were given a choice to the public. It was part of their deal to have a role in the movie. They were tried by tribunals when they had completed their function. If they did not confess and did not share secrets and did not choose to participate in the movie with a role, they were executed for their crimes against humanity. To be rich and famous means they have sold their soul to the devil. This applies to all industries, plus they had a choice. They took us all in. And most of these people aren't even people, the way they used to. Ever heard of spirit cooking? What we think we know as of 25 Aug. 2026. KFBI Director Kash Patel has confirmed that the U.S. foiled 640 planned Islamic terror attacks just last year alone, as the country faces a heightened threat environment at home and abroad, with new threats emerging. 24 Aug. 2026 most recent. An Islamic convert who pledged allegiance to ISIS was plotting to bomb the New York State Capitol, including state senators. The convert maintained more than a dozen social media profiles, many of which were repeatedly suspended for violating platform rules. Praise be to Allah. For September 11th, the convert wrote to another user in Arabic on May 28. In another message, when I can migrate, I will poison these infidels. FBI agents arrested 4 members of the Turtle Island Liberation Front on deck. 12. The group has been described as far-left, pro-Palestine, anti-government, and anti. They were accused of planning a New Year's Eve bombing targeting multiple businesses in Southern California in the name of Palestinians, or Rashida Tlaib. An individual was arrested on deck. 21 in Pennsylvania after researching ISIS propaganda to use in an explosives attack campaign. On deck. 29, an ISIS sympathizer was arrested in Texas for attempting to provide bomb-making materials to a foreign terrorist organization. The FBI also arrested an individual in North Carolina on deck. 31 who wanted to be an ISIS soldier and carry out a mass casualty attack that night.
For 10 years. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to run you through a few things, Ricardo. You'll get the gist of this in a moment. If you can be brief on each of these, because I got like 6 or 7 points to have you comment on. Describe what we've accomplished. What is the relationship, and let's say the White Hat's good against the, describe the relationship and current status of the following. We'll begin with the media. What have we accomplished? What is the relationship and status of media today as opposed to, say, 10 or 15 years ago?
Media is under White Hat control. They are running narratives to advance the White Hat narrative. They are allowing the Black Hat narratives to continue in order to demonstrate to the people what was intended. That's it.
Thank you. Let's move on to the Federal Reserve and the central bank. Might as well throw the IRS in there. They're all in there together. The Fed, the central bank, the IRS. Relationship changes, status. What's your take on that? The truth.
Once again, all those unlawful and unjust and immoral organizations have been under control for some time, and they have been used to transition the world intellectually from one place to another in terms of who controls the money and why and how, and what's going to be happening. And DJT has been progressively revealing the corruption of the individuals and the processes in all of those organizations, whether it's the Fed or the IRS and all the others, USAID and the rest. So it's that getting people accustomed to the idea that these corrupted organizations, A, they are corrupted, B, they don't represent the good of the people, taken down. And they're being used actively to disassemble themselves in front of the people.
Thank you. To our viewers, this is the 40,000-foot view summary of where we've been and where we are and what we've accomplished on just some of the things I'm raising here with Ricardo. So very valuable. Let's tap your mind. Iran, same question. Relation status, what's been accomplished?
Sure, at the lower level, and this is the lower level, Iran was always under the control of the City of London, and it used that choke point at the Strait of Hormuz to allegedly control the flow of oil and the wealth of nations. It was a control mechanism, and that's the lowest level. If people think that's strategic, no, that's at the very lowest level. The naval warfare is always about choke points. Your own great naval theoretician, Alfred Thayer Mahan, wrote about this nearly over a century ago. And that's all it is. It's choke points. So what's happened there? That choke point has now been freed. It's no longer under Iranian control, which means it's no longer under the City of London's control, which means the economies that relied upon that 20% of seaborne oil that came through the strait are now no longer under the control of the City of London, but they are under the control of somebody else who's making sure that the oil gets through, that reserves are being built up. At the higher level, we're now talking the history of Iran and its role in the history of the planet, which involves portals, interdimensional travel, and certain bloodlines, let's say, that have been running the planet for many, many, many years, and everything in between.
Thank you very much. I took a note. You know, folks, Off-World with JMC, watch the episode. Dr. Saleh and Colonel Lennox talked about that, Ricardo, about the portals in Iran in further detail, as well as time travel. We spent a lot of time on that. In fact, we'll run a clip in a minute. It dovetails perfectly into OPEC. Same question, relationship, accomplishments. What's happening with OPEC now that the world has changed?
Yeah, OPEC is no longer relevant. Again, it was a control mechanism, a fake control mechanism by City of London to continue to control oil, which controlled the strength of economies. And that was just made irrelevant. Once again, DJT, to use the analogy, he's a businessman. He's not a soldier. Soldiers like me like breaking things and then walking away. DJT just builds a better burger and opens up opposite his competition and then draws the competition to him. Now, there's a little bit of argy-bargy in there, a little push and shove, we know that. But OPEC's now an irrelevance. It always was an irrelevance. It was a fake control mechanism, allegedly. This collection of the oil producers controlling had nothing to do with them. They were just following orders. The Kabbalists controlled it all, and that is an indicator that the Cabal no longer controls the system. Having said that, it's not going to be let loose just yet because we need to reestablish new norms within the planet, which has been done by the DJT and the White Hats. New norms are being established, so the predictability of supply, a very simple thing like that, predictability of supply is there to underpin success of ventures and entrepreneurs and to reduce sovereign risk, which is critical.
Thank you. That takes us to, I just got three more. I could have added 300 to the list, but time is of the essence. NATO, same question. Where are we at? Relationship, what changes have been made?
Oh, this is superb. As a soldier, I love watching NATO get it in the neck. I was always concerned about NATO's quasi-sovereign state power that it wielded over Europe. Completely inappropriate, completely wrong. Militaries of all stripes should be subject to civilian law, and the civil law must be predicated on the will of the people. It's pretty straightforward stuff, but NATO was a power unto itself. Once again, an arm of the City of London. It created problems in order to fix problems. There's nothing new in that. Problem, reaction, solution. We're all familiar with the process. They create the problem and then they solve it. And they solve it by killing good men and women, by spending billions of dollars that don't need to be spent, creating weapon systems that were completely unnecessary. I'm not saying war's not necessary. It is. There's some bad players out there. But this was all by design. And NATO has been completely made irrelevant one more time.
Thank you. And that takes us to another irrelevant entity that seemed to have exited the script when it was front and center for some years, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab and company. Your analysis of that.
Yeah, Klaus and his mates were taken out some time ago, but they allowed the story to continue rolling. But they were replaced. I mean, you saw those glorious pictures of DJT elbowing his way through and being rude to the Europeans, and then at the World Economic Forum, basically telling them that their plan was not going to work and he had a better plan and it was going to implement it. And so that's gone. and even the idea that the World Economic Forum should run the world, as if that's the sole metric by which we measure success, the economy. How insane is that? But once again, it appealed to the avarice, the greed, the appetites of despicable people rather than actually anything else. And that is an irrelevant. It's gone. It's finished, and we are moving very quickly into the new world. Not the one they ordered, a better one.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Back to the WEF for a minute. We remember Trump recently, President Trump, I think it was a G7 meeting or something of the sort, where he walked in and said, "I'm the boss." Well, as we see with the WEF neutering, meet the new boss, not the same as the old boss. And thank goodness for that. That takes us to the United Nations. We'll just end it off there on your analysis. And folks, really, this has been very valuable, as I knew it would be, having Ricardo give us a soundbite of what's been done, where we're at on these important proxy entities that have made life miserable for all of us in the world. The United Nations, let's close out with that one, sir.
Okay, this is the burger analogy one more time. Donald Trump, what's he done? He's built the Board of Peace. Why? Because the UN couldn't do the job. It's as simple as that. And for those who don't know, the UN was essentially run by the OIC. That's not the International Olympic Committee. That's the IOC. The OIC is the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. They ran the UN. They, in their rules, it's right there for everybody to see that things like human rights are subject to Sharia law. And so you've got an Islamic organization that puts Sharia law above everything else, running the United Nations, that is now allowed to be, it's withered on the vine. And the glorious part where DJT ceased to fund it, and they're going broke. My God, all these dirtbags from third world countries that think that they can direct the planet, they're out of a job. They've got to go back to their grass huts and mud huts and eke out a living and leave us alone. And the Board of Peace has now picked up all those responsibilities and is delivering peace where the UN failed to do so for its entire existence.
Global Quantum Financial System goes live. Mainstream media takeover, EBS, 10 Days of Darkness, while Global Military Alliance makes mass arrests. Top pharma company has thousands on their kill list. Judy note, inside the emergency broadcast system, the blackout protocol, August 23, 2026. For decades, you were told that the EBS was just a test, a simple tool for earthquakes, hurricanes, or weather alerts. That was the cover story. The truth, it's a global override mechanism, a silent chain of command that stands above presidents, parliaments, and corporate giants. When it activates, every civilian communication system goes dark, screens turn black, signals vanish, social media freezes, the world goes silent until one voice speaks. The familiar line, "This is only a test," was a coded drill, a rehearsal for the real transmission that will signal the fall of the cabal. You were told it was a national system. Wrong. It's planetary, above you, a network of military satellites. The Sky Shield grid orbits in silence, waiting for one final command. The keys rest in the Pentagon, NORAD, and covert NATO command nodes, buried in Belgium, Germany, and Greenland. These are controlled by the White Hats, generals who swore an oath to the people, not to politicians nor bankers. Why now? Because the stage is set. The banks are collapsing. The media is disintegrating. The puppet masters have no more strings to pull. The world is a breath away from reset. When the EBS engages, the veil will rip. Confessions, arrest videos, classified files, truth will pour through every device simultaneously. Nobody escapes the broadcast. First, there will be silence. Hours of digital nothingness. No phones, no internet, only static and the hum of frequencies shifting. Then a flash. Your screen goes white. The seal of the Republic appears. Not CNN, not BBC, not Fox. A voice breaks through. My fellow Americans, the storm is here. What follows is the flood. Readings of unsealed indictments, Names, crimes, evidence, tribunal footage, every lie that built the old world will be shattered in front of your eyes. They tested it for years. The 2018 Hawaii missile alert, a live simulation. The nationwide emergency tests that buzzed your phone at random hours. All calibrations for the main event, because when the real one comes, it won't be local, it will be global. Who will fall? Media tycoons who fed you lies, bankers who enslaved nations through debt, politicians who sold their people for power, celebrities who traded fame for dark contracts. Their masks will be ripped off, their faces shown, their names spoken. What comes next is the storm of truth. Markets will crash, people will scream, streets will fill with confusion and revelation as humanity awakens from the program. Then, the rebirth. From the ashes of chaos, the quantum financial system will rise. Gold-backed, decentralized, unhackable, sovereignty restored, slavery erased, the return of law under God, not law under commerce. When the blackout protocol initiates, do not fear the silence. It is the sound of the old world dying. It is the breath before freedom. The EBS is not a threat. It is the voice of liberation, the hammer that shatters illusion, the trumpet that announces the new era of light. When the screens go dark, remember, the darkness does not mean the end. It means the light is ready to speak.
On Wed 12 Aug. 2026, President Trump gave the green light to activate the Worldwide Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, and ordered the global military alliance to take over the mainstream fake news media to make mass arrests of treasonous global elites. Be prepared for worldwide emergency alerts, blackouts, and 10 days of communication. Sun. 23 Aug. 2026, be ready when worldwide EBS alerts announce the global currency reset. It will be a moment when every major communication device around the globe sell. Phones, TVs, radios, internet will sound the same message, all of them at the same time, introduced by the sounds of 7 trumpets. For 72 hours, the world will be fed a steady stream of truthful, declassified information, real history, over the last 100 years. The crimes against humanity of those who said they were protecting it, the technology they stole from you, the economic system that made you a slave to debt. Military sources have revealed that on Moan. 24 August 2026, the new gold asset-backed global quantum financial system, QFS, will be live, while the privately owned by Illuminati deep state cabal foreign bankers, Federal Reserve, IRS, and US Inc. Dollar would be officially dead. With the QFS live the new rates of the gold asset-backed US note and other currencies of the 209 BRICS nations will be active and tradable. They've repriced the gold behind 209 nations' currencies for the new system to $4,384, the last dollar price that gold will ever have. As the QFS goes live, gold would no longer trade in dollars but in quantum-verified weight. Tier 4B, us, the internet group who held foreign currencies and Zim bonds, notification was already queued. The 800 numbers have been tested. The redemption centers were staffed. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know, but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood-style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. The world's leading bioweapons specialist Professor Francis Boyle, who wrote the U.S. Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act, is dead just days after signing a Dutch court affidavit. President Trump has shared a map depicting the Strait of Hormuz as a new U.S. territory, fueling chaos. Trump office on Telegram Sun. 23 Aug. 2026 GTMO 2+ million indictments worldwide. All will be revealed by EBS. That is the cover story of the movie. If they confessed and shared secrets, they were given a choice in how their death was announced to the public. It was part of their deal to have a role in the movie. They were tried by tribunals when they had completed their function. If they did not confess and did not share secrets and did not choose to participate in the movie with a role, they were executed for their crimes against humanity. To be rich and famous means they have sold their soul to the devil. This applies to all industries, plus they had a choice. They took us all in. And most of these people aren't even people. 23 Aug. 2026 A Trump investigation recently uncovered $8.3 billion in fraudulent research grants to universities. These universities were conducting illegal bioweapon research in partnership with foreign governments. There were 15 university presidents, 47 federal contractors, 3 members of Congress, and 8 judges involved. They were all coordinating with foreign operatives to develop biological weapons on American soil. Juan O. Savin, JFK Jr., son. 23 Aug. 2026, Explosive Status Report. The Cabal is DISMANTLED. Ricardo Bossi on how the White Hats dismantled the global control grid video. Possible timing. B. That's all that's left. August 24. The date they don't want you to circle. JFK's son. 23 Aug. 2026 Trump didn't extend the Iran deadline because he's negotiating. He extended it because the system isn't ready yet. Let me explain what's actually happening and why you need to screenshot this message. Right now, at this very moment, 3 things are being moved simultaneously. Gold. Central banks bought more gold in the last 90 days than in any quarter since 1967. Not investment banks. Central banks. The ones who write the rules. They're not buying gold because they're scared. They're buying it because they know what's replacing the dollar. Quantum nodes. The QFS backbone went from 12 active nodes in January to 67 active nodes as of last Friday. Each node processes 1.4 million transactions per second. You don't build that kind of infrastructure for a system you're not about to turn on. Swift access keys. Ripple's partner Thunes quietly announced stablecoin payouts to 11,500 banks through Swift. They called it a smart superhighway. That's not a partnership. That's a replacement wearing a disguise. 3 moves. 1 deadline. August 24. Now here's the part they'll never say on television. The Iran war isn't about Iran. It never was. Every bomb that falls on Tehran is a distraction from what's happening in the server rooms underneath the Federal Reserve buildings in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. They're migrating the ledger. $23 trillion in U.S. debt. $8 trillion in offshore accounts. Every transaction, every loan, every dark money transfer since 1971, all of it is being moved from the old system to the new one. And when the migration is complete, the old system gets unplugged. That's what August 24 is. Not a deadline for Iran, a deadline for the Federal Reserve. Why do you think gold dropped from $5,595 to $4,384 in 8 weeks? That's not a crash. That's a controlled descent. They're repricing gold for the new system. When QFS goes live, gold doesn't trade in dollars anymore. It trades in quantum-verified weight. The price you see today is the last dollar price gold will ever have. Tier 4B notifications are already queued. The 800 numbers have been tested. The redemption centers are staffed. I told you last week, the deals are signed. The gold has moved. The war is the cover, 48 hours. When the clock hits 0, the dollar doesn't crash. It simply stops existing. Set your alarm for August 24. Forward this to everyone you trust. Humanity enters golden age of unlimited vitality, as Cabal's suppression of extraterrestrial frequency healing collapses under Trump's military command. On Thursday, 27 Aug. 2026, portable home med bed units flood every Patriot household funded by Zim Redemptions and QFS. Full DNA mapping and consciousness restoration reverse generational trauma and bioweapons overnight, while global streams broadcast continuous regenerations, proving the miracle irreversible. On Fry. 28 Aug. 2026, final Starlink EBS locks in restored republic as healed humanity celebrates permanent death of fiat, debt slavery, and big pharma pedophile networks. C. Global currency reset. Currently, there is no public access to QFS accounts. Any individual or platform claiming they can help you redirect your funds into a QFS account today is engaging in a scam. There have been reports of individuals losing tens of thousands of dollars to these predatory schemes. The transition to the new financial system is a military-grade operation. When it is ready for public integration, it will not come through unsolicited internet offers. American Media Group Sun. 23 Aug. 2026 Thai 4B currency exchanges were being reported across the U.S. These were test exchanges done by private appointment. signed NDAs, terminals flashing revalued rates for seconds before vanishing, bankers speak in code, security teams double their shifts, redemption centers stand by in silence. Something is moving quietly, powerfully, and irreversibly. Sun, 23 Aug. 2026. Special alert, the structural reset has begun. Tony call on bank exchanges. The banks are scared of us ordinary people who hold foreign currencies and have their own list of high-wealth clients who they have been inviting in to exchange early. There is no way to get on that list, nor would you want to. You are already on it, or not. The bank appointments with their clients have each taken 3-4 hours, not the 40 or so min that we expect. Anyone who raises their voice at a bank exchange appointment can risk being blocked and not get access to their bank account. You can negotiate a rate with the bank, but do not get into an argument or they will block you. Tony has heard of people getting as high as $6 per dinar at their bank exchange. Judy note, exchange rates at redemption centers were expected to be much higher than at a bank, especially the contract rate on the dinar which the banks can't offer. G. What we think we know as of Moan, 24 Aug. 2026. Election fraud. Multiple affidavits exposed thousands of military mail-in ballot batches being 80% to 90% all for Biden, with some even being 100% all for Biden in the GA 2020 election. One military batch showed 950 for Biden and 0 for Trump, which is statistically impossible. Witnesses also testified that they all looked like Xeroxed copies, the paper looked and felt different, and the watermark did not match other authenticated ballots. Congressional hearing on 2020 election, fraud in American is so upset with the job market she's in tears. She's clearly been trying to get a job for a long time. She was offered a job, and then the offer was rescinded. She has every right to be this upset. In the last 12 months, 70–80% of jobs went to foreign-born workers. Roughly 90% of all U.S. job gains went to foreign workers since 2020. This is real data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We are being replaced by foreigners. 23 Aug. 2026. The Hamiltonian Restoration. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent drops economic nuclear bomb on globalists. Dependency is slavery. Must see. 23 Aug. 2026, midterm megabomb. Elon Musk deploys $100+ million war chest as Trump's MAGA machine gears up. The America First power play that could crush the midterms.
It's Monday. It's the 24th of August, 2026. And so much is going on and so much is being exposed right now. And people are asking a lot more questions about things. And one of the biggest questions I get asked is, why is this mass migration happening? We all know it's happening. There's loads coming into Europe. There's loads coming into the UK. But why? Have you ever wondered why? Because these people that are coming in come from countries where they're used to doing as they're told. A lot of them have come from prison, where they have to do as they're told. So these people have been brought in to Europe en masse and the UK en masse because they do as they're told. There's a big problem with British people and a big problem with Europeans. They won't do as they're told. They don't just bow down and bend over and take it up the backside. They stand up for what they believe in, and even more so now than before. The British and the Europeans are standing up. That's the same in Australia and New Zealand too. At long last, they're standing up. And that's a nightmare for a socialist, communist government, a left-wing government, a totalitarian government, a World Economic Forum government. That's a nightmare for them. So they're flooding Europe, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. They're flooding them with people who will do as they're told. And then what they'll do, by the aid of 5G and 6G bioweapons, they'll just switch them off. And they've got all the people that will do as they're told and do your job for you because they do as they're told and they don't need you. Now, you don't have to believe me. You might think that you're indispensable. To most people in the world, you are. But to the World Economic Forum, the deep state and the cabal, you're not. You won't do what they want you to do. This is a big shout out. This is all part of the pantomime, and this is all part to wake people up to what they're doing. The type of people they're bringing in are people who do as they're told. And you only have to look at the asylum seekers and refugees in the UK to work that one out. Drew, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. That leads me to my first story. Around 80 demonstrators gathered in Shrewsbury, Shropshire, Saturday to protest against mass migration, calling for the government to stop the boats. Many of the demonstrators were part of the Raise the Flags group. They were outnumbered by the Stand Up to Racism group, who saw around 250 in attendance. Charlie, whenever there is a protest, you will always see a counter-protest now. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, people are waking up. People are standing up. And they need to. Because I'll tell you right now, this is all pantomime. This is all the movie. But the movie is being done to plant a seed in the head of those people that were fast asleep. Those people who didn't believe it. And when you get refugees come into your country, most people don't give a shit until they move into your street or your town or your city. The moment it becomes personal, it becomes a problem. But if they're just moving into Leicester and Birmingham, well, they fit in. But if they move into Shrewsbury, or if you're from the posh part, Shrewsbury, then it's a problem. And this is all done to wake people up. My next story is something we're all waiting for. It's called the Clarity Act. If you listen to all the commentators around the world, from all the different points of view, it all points towards the middle of September, the 15th or the 17th. Somewhere around the middle of September, the Clarity Act is expected to pass. I like the 17th. Number one, because it's 17. And number two, because it's Thursday. 15th is a Tuesday. I did tell you it'd all be done by Thursday. But things are happening. Things are happening. Keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and watch for the middle of September. Whether it's the 15th, if it comes early, people get very excited. They hate it when it comes late. But keep your eyes and ears open. All fingers are pointing towards the Clarity Act being passed and signed off by the middle of September. And that will be a very, very important day for the Western world.
Wake up, America. President Trump just made a move that absolutely terrified the deep state. On July 25, 2026, he put all federal diversity staff on paid leave, effective immediately. 107, 23 Aug. 2026, the media is calling it routine. They are lying. Here's what they don't want you to know. What were these diversity programs really doing? While America was sleeping, 312 federal employees were running a $47 million per year operation, not for diversity training, for funding deep state black operations across multiple agencies. How did they hide it? Every single federal agency had a chief diversity officer. Each one reported directly to a shadow network operating inside the Department of Justice. The money flowed through shell organizations, universities, and nonprofits. Nobody was watching. Nobody was asking questions. What did Trump's team discover? Trump's intelligence team discovered encrypted communications. They found SWIFT transfer records proving $8.3 billion in fraudulent research grants to universities. These universities were conducting illegal bioweapon research in partnership with foreign governments. Who was involved in this conspiracy? 15 university presidents, 47 federal contractors, 3 members of Congress, 8 judges. They were all coordinating with foreign operatives to develop biological weapons on American soil. The evidence is overwhelming. What happens now? The arrests have already started. FBI director confirmed involvement with deep state. The first wave arrested 312 federal employees. The second wave is targeting the university presidents and contractors. The third wave is coming for Congress and the judiciary. Why did Trump move so fast? Because the deep state was preparing to activate their final contingency plan. They were using these networks to coordinate a massive coup attempt. Trump's team intercepted their communications. He moved first and moved decisively. When will the public know the truth? Trump is preparing a 48-hour national address. When he speaks, the emergency broadcast system will activate nationwide. The military tribunals begin August 1st. The evidence will be declassified. The pattern is clear. They built a system to hide trillions of dollars. They used diversity as cover. They infiltrated every agency. They were preparing to take down the Republic.